Hey, how's it going, everybody? Today, I would like to go over basically review some games that we played over in 2023. Thought we could have some interesting discussions about the games themselves. Maybe talk about what we liked about them, what we didn't like about them. Opening up, starting with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands that we played early in 2022. Sorry, 2023. So, with Tiny Tina's, the general premise of the game was that you were the Fate Maker, and you were going to thwart the Dragon Lord's evil schemes, what have you, with your team. You had several different classes that you could play, such as the Spell Shot, the Warden, Clawbringer, the Blight Caller, the Berserker, the Stabomancer, and the Graveborn. Just out of curiosity, is anybody in my chat today? All right, well, if anybody wants to join in and talk about the games, by all means. So, with Tiny Tina's Wonderland, if I can even talk correctly today. Oh. Just a second, that is blaring in my ears. Just a little bit. Wow. Okay. So Tiny Tina Wonderlands, this game was released March 25th, 2022. This was developed by Gearbox Software and published by Y2K. I'm sorry, 2K. It was sent out on various platforms, and it sells for about $60 for the base game. I don't know how many hours I've actually played this game, but I know it's at least 100 plus. Unfortunately, Epic does not always tell me how many hours I played unless I have the game installed, which I didn't at the time of putting this together. Yeah, so when I played this game, I kind of had a certain expectation from the Borderlands series, which this is what this game is based off of. I thought it was very different from those games, as they were very... this was a lot more lighthearted and more whimsical. It definitely, from the mind of one of the characters, Tiny Tina, was kind of brilliant, where she plays like a DM. I really enjoyed the Bunkers and Badasses expansion from the Borderlands 2 series, and this is pretty much where this is derived from. I really thought this was such a really good franchise. So I want to try in this show. I don't really want to try to spoil anything. Hey, how's it going there, Heimdall? Yeah, it is a bit of fun. I really wanted to try not to spoil anything in as far as the game itself, but I did want to talk about some of the points that I thought that they did really well with this game, and games that they didn't. Heimdall, did you want to join me in Discord and discuss the game too, or would you like to just go through chat? Well, anyway, we talking about the different classes and stuff. The class diversity was kind of interesting. Your Spell Shot was your wizard for all intents and purposes. What was kind of neat, or what was his thing, was he was able to regenerate spells really quickly, and he also had like a power where you could sheep, but then you could also cast spells while you shot at the sheep, so that was kind of neat. Oh, that's perfectly fine. And then the Warden was kind of like your ranger, really good at using firearms and had a nice little mushroom pet that would help res you. It was kind of nice to have, actually, for a solo player. Clawbringer was probably the equivalent of like a paladin class, using fire and lightning elements to thwart and destroy his foes. The Blightcaller was a poison element class. Had some interesting semi-necromancer abilities too, so kind of a weird class, because I was kind of expecting the Graveborn to be more like that. The Graveborn was about the dark element and more about sacrificing your health for doing crazy amounts of damage. Stabomancer was your flat-out melee, basically anything to do with melee attacks, and the Berserker was using frost damage with your melee attacks to do some heavy damage. So it's a pretty interesting spread, and of course later on in the game you get to dual class with these specs, so it could add for very interesting combinations along the way. How are you liking that claw, Heimdall? And when I went through the game, I think I went through as a Berserker claw bringer, and that turned out pretty cool to have like both an electric and a ice combination. Did pretty good. By the way, is this background music really loud for you too, or is it just me? You just got the Berserker second class? Okay. It's not loud on that end? Okay. Yeah, I'm not really sure how to separate that out, because man, that is super loud on mine. A little distracting. I got to figure that one out. I wonder if there's a way for me to mute it here but not mute it out there. Well, I'll worry about that later. So how are you liking that the Berserker and the Clawbringer classes you're going through? The other thing kind of unique to this game is its loot system. I wouldn't say it's necessarily unique per se, but I've always enjoyed the way this game kind of handles its loot. I did find it a little annoying that this particular game has this loot dice mechanic where you have to go and collect loot dice to progress your loot as you are going through. So like you have to collect all of them. If you don't, then your loot tables are always going to be kind of on the low side. So yeah, not had a single legendary drop, but still good to... Yeah. It's not that you can't get a legendary drop, but the chances are stupid low at first. And until you get the other loot dice, you don't really see a lot of purples and legendaries for quite some time in the game. Yeah, exactly. Gotta find them D20s. It was a very kind of frustrating part of that game, but at least they made it so that once you've done it with one character, all your characters have it done. So you don't have to do that for every single character you make. That was kind of annoying when they first came out. That wasn't the case. When they first came out, you had to actually get them for every character, and that was pretty brutal. But that got better. The game itself was pretty fun leveling. I mean, I didn't even really worry about my levels throughout the entire game. You could play through the entire story, and by the time you're done with the story, you were pretty close to the end. I think 50 was the cap, or maybe it was 40. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but it was, I mean, it really wasn't that big a deal. And then once you finish the game, the in-game content was the Chaos Arena, or I think is what they called it. And they had like 100 levels of that you could go through for even better options at loot and difficulty of game. The game, the post game wasn't really all that fun to me. I mean, that was, you could do it, and it was kind of neat to get the loot and stuff, but the game itself was just basically stat bloat, so it didn't really make the game harder. It's just you had to eat through more enemies at the end, so it was kind of a, I don't know, I would say a lackluster post game, but the game itself, as far as the story and getting to play with 4 of your friends to go, or 3 of your friends to go through it, that was a lot of fun. As far as I kind of wish that they would have done something a little different with the end game. Even the DLC, like the DLC was okay. I think the DLCs went for about $10 a piece. Not try the Clothing and a Berserker combo too much. It's going to be... Oh, okay, I see. Yeah. I think I remember watching your stream. You had just gotten it, as I recall, when you guys called it a day. There were some extremely memorable moments in this game when it came to the story. I'm not going to ruin it for anybody, but it was pretty good. It was a lot like Borderlands 2, where they had some really memorable moments. I mean, I played this game back when it came out, and I still remember. I haven't really touched it since then, but outside of, you know, I should say I haven't touched it since we last streamed it, like early 2023. But I still remember some very vivid parts of that game, which makes which is really what makes me think of good games. If I can remember what the game was about when I played it over a year ago, that's pretty good. I mean, I swear I've got at least 200 hours in this game. I know I've put at least 100 in. I'm not exactly sure how much total, but quite a few. All right. That's pretty much all I've got to say about Tiny Tina, so we're going to move on to our next game, Warhammer 40k Darktide. So give me just a quick second here as we bring that one up. Sure, this is coming. Yeah. So Warhammer Darktide, this game came out November 30th, 2022. It was developed and published by Fatshark. It was mostly sent out on the PC and Xbox platforms. The game itself runs for about $40. I think they have a $60 Imperial Edition. I have not played this game that much. I've only got maybe 15 hours into this game. You're a prisoner of the Empire. Your captors encounter chaos creatures, and with your ship, with the help of your crew members of the Inquisitor, with the help of your fellow crew members and the Inquisitors, you basically manage to escape the horrible situation and delay your death sentence, being conscripted into the Inquisition. There are 4 classes currently available. The Ogren, which is kind of like a tank class. A Marksman, obviously your gunner class. The Zealot, which is another tanky class. Not really sure what sets them apart from the Ogren, because I have not played one yet. And the Psyker, which is kind of like your mage. This game is very much a lot like Vermintide, if you've ever played that. Vermintide is another Warhammer series, but it's basically where you play with another group with 3 of your friends. and you are fighting endless hordes of, in this case, chaos monsters or chaos agents. In Vermintide, it varied from various different creatures, but mostly the rats. And really, the game itself was, I don't know, it was, I had a hard time with this game because it really didn't, while I'm a big fan of the Warhammer 40k series, and I say a big fan loosely, I'm not like, I'm not really, I don't have like all the books or anything, or I've read all the books, but I do enjoy the Warhammer 40k games and the world that it presents. I'm currently going through Rogue Trader myself and really enjoy that game, but it's one of those games where you're just playing as a group. Kind of a good example of this game would also be like Left 4 Dead, where you're just fighting endless hordes of undead, and you've got a couple special monsters along the way that you're just trying to keep them, you know, that comfort your team as you're going through whatever mission you're working through on this game. I didn't play this game a lot, not so much because the game was bad, but because it was not really working too well with my video card. So like I was having a lot of stuttering issues, a lot of gameplay issues. I wanted to give this game some time to optimize itself. Hopefully I figured within maybe a year or two, this game would be either more optimized or my video card could actually handle it, because I would often run into problems where I would be playing the game and it would either stutter or the frame rates would just drop to just abysmal levels. It's hard to gauge a game. I mean, it looks very pretty, as you can see in the screens here. I mean, it's got some really cool. Yeah, you can see the person I played the most is my Ogren character. But like, you know, it's just it's got interesting, you know, semi-interesting story. It's not really story heavy though. It is mostly just going in and killing and just doing dungeons really for, you know, a couple of minutes. I mean, most of these dungeons probably I call them dungeons, but they're really missions. They probably go for about 20 minutes. I mean, maybe 30 if you're being really thorough about scouring the map for books and such. But in that mechanic, you know, like the way the game works is basically you get into a mission, you've got an objective, but then you've also got these secondary objectives like finding these tomes, or I forget what they call them. I think they're called scriptures in this game. And so you're searching the map for scriptures, and these scriptures gives you bonus loot or bonus experience at the end of your mission. Each of these characters have, you know, custom equipment, and as you level up, you start unlocking better and newer kinds of weapons. The weapons obviously get better as you go along, so it's got a bit of an RPG element to it. It's what's the best way to describe it? It's kind of like Tiny Tina's in that you have like this like looter. Not really a looter shooter, because it doesn't really give you loot as you play. Your loot only really comes from what you purchase and from your rewards for the end of the mission. But it's much more grindy, I think, from the standpoint that you get so few loot compared to like Tiny Tina's. So you gotta really work at this game in order to get really further along. Let me kind of fast forward a bit to some gameplay here. All right, so here's some gameplay into which this game plays, and you'll see as I'm playing through here, like the frames will start to kind of stutter. It's not as bad as it was when I first played it, because I just made this video like a couple days ago. So like I said, it looks really pretty, but it's also extremely, it's got like a bunch of drop frames just in just simple parts of the game. I get into a bigger battle, because right now you're just kind of going through the mission, but once we get into like a horde point, you'll start seeing things dropping a little bit further. The motion blur also kind of threw me off a little bit in this game. It added a interesting element from the standpoint that I felt like it was it gave you a little bit more tunnel vision per se. Like you could only really focus on, you had to kind of slow down to focus, if that makes sense. But it's a pretty game. Definitely pretty. Yeah, don't stand in the fire like I did. That's a bad idea. There's a big monster there. See, I think at some point I fight a bigger monster. But I mean, this is the gameplay. You're kind of just running around. And here's a good example of like an event where you're starting to get boarded, and they just keep coming. It's like the Ogren over here is hacking the machine while the rest of us are trying to keep all the stuff off of them. But this is the type of objectives you have along the way in the missions. Now, to be fair, I'm running a 2080 on this game, so it's not the best video card. And this game was probably designed with more of the 4080s, or the 40 series of the NVIDIAs, but I mean, it does okay. But it's still, just, the frame rates on it are just pretty abysmal compared to some other games I've played. Or maybe it's the effects and I just don't notice it, but it just seems like the frames are not as smooth on this. Anywho, they also have, I mean, much like the Tiny Tina's, and we didn't really talk about this that much, they had a talent system as well. So they've got various talents that you can go through for your various classes that make them a little bit stronger for their given designation and whatnot. But I don't know much about them since I didn't really get a chance to play this game a whole heck of a lot. But, all right, well, we'll move on to Darkest Dungeon. All right. So, Darkest Dungeon, this game was released January 19th of 2016, developed by Red Hook Studios and published by Red Hook Studios. Came out for various platforms. Currently, this game is going for about $25. They have a $50 Ancestral Edition. I have about 23 hours into this game, but yeah, there's quite a bit. This game is actually a pretty quick game for the most part. I mean, it doesn't, in terms of like doing one dungeon run, takes about 20 to 30 minutes for a short to medium run. Longer runs take a little longer, of course, but it's not too bad. This is a great game. It is hard, very tough, especially if you're not a person that likes to look at stats and how. Yeah, you got way more time into this game than I do, but it is a fantastic game for what little I got to play of it. They really did. They did a good job. They really did.
Let me share with you the terrible wonders.
So we're looking at a video from my current game, and we're just gonna fast forward into the. So. With this game, I guess I should go ahead and, the player inherits basically an estate from his ancestor. The said ancestor was, was basically digging for something in the catacombs and nearby areas when a monster is discovered. Heroes start coming in, horrors start coming in. And the player does his best by hiring mercenaries to help fight off the monsters. There are tons of different classes, as you can see on the right here. Classes from the Abomination, the Arbalest, the Bounty Hunter, the Crusader, the Grave Robber, the Hellion, the Highwayman, Houndmaster, Jester, Leper, Men-at-Arms, Occultist, Plague Doctor, Vestal. And then they added a couple others. I hope I'm spelling this with the Flagellant, the Antiquarian, and the Shield Breaker from the various DLCs. Yes, the narrator is quite good. I do have to give him credit. The voice acting in this was just on par. I didn't get the narrator's name, but he did an amazing job. I really like this game because each class has several abilities that can kind of change what it is they do. So like the way this game starts is you start building up this little town that you've inherited, And you know, at the guild, you can go and change some of the. You can purchase some abilities for these classes. The classes you can select, I believe it's 4 different abilities that they can use for combat. And based on what you pick, what position they're in, they can do various things. I'm not going to go too deeply due to time because I've got at least 10 games to go through here. But we could literally have an entire video discussion about the various classes and how they interact with each other and how they could work, because it's crazy how much customizability they have for these characters, and the group compositions matter quite greatly in this game. I'm not sure if that's really the best way to say it, but it is important. I think fast forward a little bit into this, but I believe the composition I have in this particular example, I have a men-at-arms in the front, a houndmaster second, an antiquarian in third, and an occultist in the back. The man-at-arms is your frontliner. He's very much a tank and able to do a massive amounts of damage in the front line. The houndmaster is kind of nice because he's able to attack anywhere in the line, the enemy line, I should say. The antiquarian, I kind of keep her around just to gather a bunch of loot because that's really good. Trinkets boost certain aspects too. Yes, absolutely. I didn't actually do a lot with trinkets in this run, but I have you can kind of see here in the, I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but your trinkets are right here in this little corner, and the man-at-arms has a couple of things for his health and defense, but then I kind of left the rest of them open because I was kind of expecting to pick up some trinkets in this run, which unfortunately didn't happen in this case. At the top, you have like a light meter based on how bright your torch is running. The darker that gets, the harder the enemies get. So there's some really neat mechanics in this game that I thought kind of made it unique, and the art style is freaking phenomenal. I mean, when I first saw this game, I was like, I'm not really sure I want to play this type of game. It just doesn't look all that interesting to me, but this art style really grew on me as I went through, started playing. Yeah, no kidding. An antiquarian is huge. Bear with me while I'm munching on my cookies here. But yeah, you can see over here in my little item sack, I don't know if you can see my cursor very well, but I mean, just on these longer expeditions, I have all sorts of supplies handy, but this also doubles as what you can pick up your equipment, so there's a limit to how much you can pick up from these runs. I really like that. I like that you had to kind of make some choices. You couldn't just run through and just pick everything up, and you had to really think about what you were carrying with you. You had to think about what kind of group you had with you, because depending on what type of enemies you're fighting. There was just a lot to this game, a lot of little strategy pieces that made this game very fun and entertaining to me, and at least. You can see the cursor. Good. Yeah, I actually got the second game shortly after buying this one, so I plan to play that this year. We'll see how it is. I heard that they changed quite a bit, though, so I don't know if I'm going to like it or not. We'll see. They did such a good job with this game, though. I was really happy with the classes. All felt like very unique and very... they had their own flavor, and they were very entertaining. I felt this game was frustrating is that until you get to a certain point in the game, stress management, which is these little white bars at the bottom, stress management and managing your health during a dungeon run it's not so bad at first, but as you get further and further into the game, that starts to become a real big issue. And it really was hard to manage at first. It gets better, but you also got to be not partial to any of these mercenaries you pick up. You got to be willing to cut them loose if they get too bad. Yeah, it is huge, because if you start getting too stressed, you start getting these disabilities or these hindrances to your character, and they add up real fast. They give you some huge bonuses. Now, you can fix them later, but it costs a lot of gold. to fix these problems that these guys, these psychoses and other diseases that they pick up along the way. So it's also a big part of this game of managing the stress diseases and all that other stuff as you go through. It is really neat, but at the same time, it is very, very, yeah, very costly. Absolutely. All right. I don't know, Heimdall, is there anything you want to talk about this game in particular? I mean, there was a lot to this game that we could sit and talk about, I think, for quite a while, but there was... I mean, what was your favorite group composition going through this game? I mean, I think I really enjoyed having either a Crusader or a Hellion at the front, and then I really liked having the Grave Robber, the Flagellant. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. I think it's Flagellant. That new class that they added. That class is a really cool healing class. And then either an Antiquarian for my third slot, or I've even liked using the Jester. Oh, sure.
Executed with impunity. Another one falls.
Hey, welcome, Heimdall.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Hey, anytime. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Gonna discuss a bit more. It's probably better to be voiced a little quicker.
I think so too. It's a little bit easier to respond.
Back to the
Yeah, since I have quite a few hours in this game.
So what was your... No, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I will not go in too much into story, but I will go into certain mechanics.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's kind of interesting. Party composition and synergy is pretty huge depending on where you go as well, because you have different areas
death.
where you can go as well into the dungeons.
Yeah, let me go back to those spots so you can kind of see some of these areas. Let's see here.
The first one is like the ruins,
Yeah, here we go. Oh, I had it and then I lost it.
which is mostly undead, and certain characters are better with undead. So certain party members are gonna be a lot better that way. And then you have like the Cove. There are specific people that are better there because the enemies have a certain type against you. Usually Cove is bleed. Ruins has a lot of, undead that does a lot of damage against you, and then stress. And then the Wield usually have like disease and I was gonna say poison, which is basically
the same thing. Light, yeah.
yeah. And the Warrens are similar, but as the Wield, but the Warrens also has a lot more. I think it has a lot more disease focus.
Right.
Wield is more blight.
Right.
Warren's disease. So, and then of course we had the DLCs with the farmstead and the courtyard.
I haven't even touched those yet.
Yeah, to get into the courtyard, you need certain items to even go into it, and it's a lot different from normal dungeons. It's a lot bigger because you basically have to leave after a while.
Oh.
And then when you come back, you basically continue from where you were.
Oh, really? So it's not like the other ones where it's kind of a random dungeon every time you go in. It's the same one, but you come back.
Yeah, it's the same one until you find the boss.
Oh.
And once you find the boss, certain things happen. It also affects your hamlet in a bit as well.
Now, how does that affect your hamlet? Or is that going to be too spoilery?
No, there are certain annoyances that comes from the courtyard that annoys your hamlet,
Oh.
mosquitoes and such.
Gotcha.
And then you have the farmstead, which is basically also a long dungeon that is different from all the other ones. You collect like certain resources there that you can't find anywhere else, and you can bind specific trinkets with.
Oh, okay.
But there's also the one that you have to like leave if you can. You would also prefer to complete it, but it's quite these are hard ones to do. So you need a pretty good
team.
Mercenaries. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good team and ability to remove stress and such. So there are certain characters that are better at removing stress, buffing, and certain that are more for damage, more for tanking. And of course, some are better for ailment statuses such as bleeding, blight, and such. And then, of course, with the DLC, also came with piercing as well for certain, high guard people with high protection.
Right.
And of course, each mission has its rewards, usually money, certain resources, and trinkets.
Right.
Also, of course, town events happens for certain ones, as you see on the... Right now, you get Caregivers Convention, gain a certain boost.
Right.
To your hamlet, for example, like free... can get a free weapon, you can get free... cost for the sanitarium,
right? Which is what the Caregivers Convention is, I believe, because that's what happened to me after I finished this mission. I was able to get a lot of care for the guys that definitely needed it.
Yeah, that one is among the best. You can fix a lot, but you can also, because you also gain quirks.
Yes.
Positive quirks and negative quirks, and with that you can lock in positive quirks and remove negative quirks that also have been locked in.
Right.
Since those are usually much more expensive to either remove or lock in.
That's right, because I mean those things were anywhere between 4,000 and 15,000 to remove, depending on the quirk. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's why you want those resources as well.
Money is really tight, and so are these. I mean, surprisingly to me, the statues, the crests, and the deeds that you had to pick up to upgrade your stuff. Those were actually fairly rare too. That they did a pretty good job balancing, in my opinion, the resources in this game, where it didn't feel like you were getting so much that you were completely like overstocked on something, right? Like you just couldn't spend enough of it. In fact, I would almost say they were almost on the scarce side, because it seemed like you never had enough. At least for a very long time.
Yeah, it also depends on what you pick up during your dungeon run. Sometimes you have to okay, right now I need a lot of deeds, so you focus on those deeds, busts or anything, and you take less money because right now I don't need as much money.
Right.
Because I really need these deeds or these busts or these paintings, right?
Right.
For a certain upgrade that you really need to maybe upgrade, the warrior skills, making them more efficient. Or open up higher level armor so they can take the better beating.
Right.
If that would be it. Yeah.
Right.
So there's a lot to think about in this game. It has a lot of small
strategic elements to it. It does. It's what made this game so good.
Yeah, they're not very complicated, each one on its own.
Right.
But together
they add up.
To add up to that is really interesting mix of strategies you can employ.
Absolutely. I mean, it was to me that's what made this so good. Is not only was it a good RPG from a standpoint of keeping your characters equipped, but there was a lot of strategic elements as to who you bring with you, where you go, what you need. Because I mean, there's a store before each game, or before you go in to buy provisions, and you might need certain things for certain places, like you were describing the Weald having mostly blight. other places having bleed. So, you know, you're going to need bandages in one, medicines in the other. I just thought it was so well put together. And it really is. These fights that you fight along the way are tough too. I mean, these monsters are no joke. And you feel it as you go through, because you actually feel like your team is weathering down, or, you know, being whittled down as they're going through the dungeon. And usually by the end of it, you're like, oh man, I need to get out of here, or these guys are going to die.
Oh yeah, definitely. Certain enemies can really surprise you, and sometimes you roll bad. Like, you have a lot of misses, they gain a lot of crits.
Yes.
It also has to do with your light level. Also with your torch.
Yes, exactly.
Also affect certain things. So there are like light runs and there are dark runs that you can do. There are certain trinkets that help you when you're doing like a dark run, and when you keep the light up high, you gain certain benefits from your trinkets.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also, the enemies get better the darker it is. They have a higher chance of getting crits on you, more stress on you, things like that.
Yep.
But if you have good synergy, good trinkets, that is for, you know, the darker runs, you can gain a lot of money and loot. So there's a higher chance of things dropping.
Right. Yeah, this game is absolutely phenomenal. I would highly recommend it to anybody that loves RPGs and strategies. This was one of my favorites of the year, by far.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. But things can go bad really quick as well.
Oh, that they can. This next game, I know that you love, Heimdall. You definitely enjoy this game, because I know you've got like 120 hours just in character creation alone. So the next game that we're going to talk about today is Pathfinder Kingmaker. This game was released on September 25th, 2018. Created or developed by Owlcat Games and published by Prime Matter. Platform came out for various platforms. Right now, this game's going for about $20. I've got about 90 hours in this game in particular. And the simple gist of the story is that after a run-in with a bandit group, the player becomes a baron or baroness, if you're a woman, in the Stolen Lands, and sets to resolve the various challenges in the area. This game was based off the Pathfinder book and dice game.
Yep, which is based off the 3.5 D&D
rule set, right?
Rule set, yep.
Let's see. So I just kind of loaded in a game that I was in the middle of playing, to kind of show off the game feature, kind of show off the game a little bit. But this game had so much to it that I don't even think in a series of videos I could get it all in. I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah, that's a bunch.
Since you're an expert in character creation, you want to talk about that just a little bit?
Well, character creation I'm pretty good at. I have a lot of, like in the beginning, I'm very good at the tutorial area because I've done a lot of characters, a lot of things. So it is, if you know D&D rules, it's very similar. It's just you have a lot more of it. You have a lot more. Of course, you have your classes, which you can choose, and then subclasses from said. Example, you have a cleric, but then you can also have different categories under cleric that gives you certain bonuses, or it switches the bonuses to something else.
Mm-hmm. That was the one thing about this game that I thought was just so incredible. Like, not only did they have a really good class system where they have like various flavors of the same class that you can kind of choose from, but they did such a great job in showing the player, like, okay, at level 1 this is what you get, but here's your path to level 20. If this is what you wanted to do, only this is what you would get.
Oh yeah, each class they showed the roadmap of that class. Like, all of these things you will get, so you will not get like surprised. So you can, like, calculate out from level 1 to level 20. You know exactly what skills you will get with each class. But then also you have multi-classing if you wish. You don't have to. It's there if you want to. So certain things are class for classes, and certain things are for your levels. So certain things will stop leveling if you switch to a class, unless that class also has like benefits that your current level it continues with your new class level as well. So there's a bit of synergy between certain other classes and also prestige classes.
The stolen lands are
Right.
a
Well,
strange place.
and there is a lot of not only
in pain here.
can you see what there's a lot of the whole chart of level 1 to 20. During certain levels you will also gain
Twisted up in a tight
choices to choose your abilities as well from a huge list, depending on also how your stats are and which other skills you have. Oh, I can barely hear me, Master. Hello, Master.
Hey, Master. Can barely hear Heimdall. Well, let me see if I can fix that. Hold on. We'll make him blaring.
Am I glaring? I'm blaring.
I got you up to almost double what you were before, so hopefully you can be heard now. Let's see if... oh, you know what? I bet I know why. Hold on. Let me... I know what's going on. Let me fix this. Hold on. It's because you're coming through my desktop audio, and I have that turned down because it was killing my ears earlier. So let me turn that off. I'll turn this other stuff up, but I'll turn it down. Okay. All right. So, how about now, Heimdall? Why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit and see if Master can hear you.
Chat, can you hear me? I hope you can hear me well. As I was saying, there are certain prestige classes with your classes. I'm getting the thumbs up, so...
All right, thanks, Master. I appreciate you letting me know that. I didn't even think about that. Hopefully that will sound a little bit better and easier to hear now.
Yeah, at least I was being heard. Might have just been low. So there is just for your character alone, right? So you can have up to 6 characters at the same time, including your character, when you play the game, which is interesting because not only can you control what you want to do with your character, you control these other class characters that are story characters. So you can have auto leveling for them, or you can also make the choices for them as they level up. So not only do you have to figure out how to do your character, you have to do theirs.
And build up your group however you need for the whatever story purposes there are.
Yeah, since you can also multi-class with them. So it's kind of interesting how you can make a good party composition.
Yep. And I will say that there are literally tons of skills and spells, and it's crazy to me the options for customization and how they all play into one another. Some of the best parties, and I'll be honest with you, as this game goes on, like in the beginning, this game's pretty, forgiving. But as this game goes on, much further in, it becomes a slog in a way, depending on your difficulty settings and your group composition. But if you don't build your characters right, I would say, and I'm not, when I say right, I mean, I'm not talking like they're like min-max to the point of ungodliness, but I mean, like if you kind of like if you don't spend enough time making sure that you have the right ability to hit or the right defense at a given point in the game, you could be in trouble, because it is really tough, because this game is very much RNG based. And there's a good chance that you'll get hit hard.
Yeah, it is dice based, so it's all luck of the roll basically. And what we say with like you can level a character wrong, which is kind of easy because the game doesn't handhold you a lot.
Right.
So you just have to figure out like what are their class. Okay, so what is this class good at? What kind of weapons does she have already skills and abilities into? And you try and make those as efficient as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to look at all of their separate strength in order to level them in a way that would be at least adequate, right? So you don't, it's easy to level people wrong.
Very
as well.
Very, very easy. And then gearing them in general, there's so many options. So you have to really kind of pay attention to, what type of armors you're using, because there could be bonuses and minuses to each of them, depending on what you are and what you're doing. I mean, there's so much. I mean, this game is complex, is the nicest way to put it. I mean, it was almost as bad as reading Chinese algebra upside down in a mirror, but I mean, it was
pretty much.
It could be a lot. This is definitely a game for people who love strategy, numbers, and thinking things through. It is a lot, but it is. Oh, you can see me getting beat up here. But
Definitely.
I mean,
there's also certain encounters that are really unbalanced for what level you are.
Mm-hmm.
So some encounters are really meant to be like really tough, and like 5 hours later you gain some encounters that are like, oh, these are like too easy.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly they're hard. So the balance of the game in the beginning can be a little up and down. That's like the biggest critique this game has, is the balancing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's true with most of these D&D style games, because the way they build these encounters are with a certain expectation that you're going to do certain things first and whatnot, but for the players that explore and just kind of stumble upon things, that's exactly what happens. Because they open up areas that like your characters are just not ready for. I've ran into a few places like that where I'm like, okay, we're gonna come back later after I've leveled up a little bit, because these guys just cannot handle these types of monsters yet, because they don't have enough magic, or they don't have enough AC to survive these attacks that are very aggressive. Yeah. Sometimes you need magic to counter, and if you don't have a mage in your party, it's impossible. That's part of the problem with some of these encounters, is that it's not that it requires a certain class, but if you don't have one, it makes the fight infinitely harder.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure, there's a fight there. There's like an enemy radiates fear, so all your characters run away and can't do anything and get hit in the back by all the ads that it has. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have like a mage that can repel that fear, I mean, you're in for a rough awakening.
Yeah, it is rough. And not only wizards, but clerics and other spellcasters, they bring such defenses to the party. Like a lot of the fights, if you just, prepare for them, if you know that they're coming, right? The more challenging ones are the ones where you're ambushed. But if you know that you're going into a fight, and if you prepare for them, these fights can be really easy. But if you're surprised and you're trying to make buff or cast buffs, if you were ill prepared and you're trying to cast buffs in the middle of a fight, then it gets infinitely harder. So.
Oh yeah, a lot of these games is like pre-buffing is the thing in these type of games. Like you buff beforehand and then you go into the fight and do your thing, right? But again, as you said, ambushes, you will not be prepared and you have to do as best as you can.
Yep, absolutely. But this game was very pretty. I thought the art in this game was really well done. It's got like a nice style to it. I like the menus and controls. Most of them were pretty intuitive. I can't remember off the top of my head of anything that I went and said, I don't know how to do this, or I couldn't figure out how to find out what to do. When you're going through these turns, you can see that you got like standard actions, a move action, so it has a really easy to understand interface as far as what you can do in a single turn. as much as I hate to say this for this game, but I wish they had more buttons, because there's so many abilities that you can't put them all onto a single bar.
Yep, agreed.
I think they fixed that in Wrath of the Righteous, but in this version of the game, I think you only were limited to like a single bar, and it just wasn't enough.
Yeah. But this game also does is it has a lot of information on each skill, and even highlights certain words and such and terms, and you can like look them up.
That was the other thing. The documentation for this game was absolutely awesome, because if you didn't understand what something was, like you were saying, there's a tooltip for each item, and you can sit there and look and get the details if you really needed it. Because sometimes, I mean, there's so many abilities, I can't possibly remember what each of them does. I have to kind of look at the tooltips and go, okay, what does this do again? Oh yeah, okay, that's the one I'm looking for.
Yeah. Some skills are very niche as well. Like, there are very few that has this effect, or does this, or, you know. So you kind of have to read up a lot if you're not used to casting them or using the abilities enough. And then, especially as a mage, when you level up, you gain a ridiculous amount of abilities when you level up to like level 3 magic, level 4 magic. Like, you get a massive list. Depending on the class you are, you get different spells to choose from. There's a lot of overlap, but
yeah, but
still,
I think that's important, because when you're doing your group compositions, you want to see what these other classes can do, and you know, one group composition might need another type that has a slightly different, but you need to at least be able to cover where other people may be falling short, or maybe you need a backup, so in case, you know, one person dies, you got at least one other person that can do something.
Yeah, for example, just say that class we talked about with the subclasses and such. The Magus, for example, it's an intelligence-based caster, but also melee. So he casts basically spells on his weapon to do attacks. But then the Magus has a subclass called the Sword Dancer, I believe, which goes off charisma. Then it will affect your persuasion skills and other things like that, but you gain a lot less amount of magic, but you do gain a lot of other abilities which make your melee powers stand out. But you can also cast like certain extra effects on your sword, so when you strike you can use like your shocking grasp. You can put that effect on your sword as you hit, for example. So there's a lot of mixing you can do depending on just within the same class, and certain items and gear also helps with certain things that you are. So you can have like a druid, you can have 5 different druids and then play very differently in a party, for example. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, no, they did such a great job with this game. I can't even stress enough. Like, even like the other skills come into play a lot, and like you see me disarming traps here is one, but like even the conversation skills. There's a lot of discussion, a lot of talking, a lot of story, and the story's good. I can't deny that. There's a lot to it. Yeah, lots of reading. I mean, you are reading a novel when you play this game. There is no doubt about it.
Yep.
There's just like most of these games, it does such a good job. We'll actually go ahead and leave that there for time's sake, because we could literally probably spend another half hour, 45 minutes just talking about this game. But
easy.
We have another game here. We're going to move on to Baldur's Gate 3. Now this game came out in August 3rd, 2023. Developed and published by Larian Studios. This came out for various platforms. Right now it's currently going for about $60. I have over 220 hours in this game. So I've played it a little bit.
I need to check. I have about 250 hours. Most of it is character creation in chapter 1.
Well, to be fair, most of my hours was back when it was in its early access days, so it was only chapter 1. I went through
Yeah.
trying each class, and then when it finally released, I think I've only gotten. I have not finished this game. I've only gotten, I think, to the third act when you are going through Baldur's Gate and doing various things. Again, not trying to spoil too much, but basically, you know, in this story, you were a kidnapped victim by the Mind Flayers and infected by one of their parasites, and slowly becoming a Mind Flayer yourself. After surviving a crash, you and some survivors are looking for ways of removing that parasite and hopefully saving your lives in turn. But this game had such amazing cutscenes. I don't know much about Larian Studios myself, but they did a phenomenal job on this game. It's very pretty. Lots of it was based off D&D 5e system, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And they I mean, I've only played a little bit of 5e myself. They did pretty good job, I think, of putting that from book and dice to a video game format.
Yeah, they did. They used the Divinity engine that they used for Divinity Original Sin 2, which had a lot of freedom. You could do a lot of crazy stuff. And they incorporated that engine into this one and made it with a D&D 5e rule set. And it worked really well, actually. And character creation is fairly robust. It is, compared to Pathfinder, limited. You feel at first, but since the game is fairly streamlined when it comes to character classes, it becomes more apparent which class you are. Of course, you have subclasses within those classes, but usually you have like a fairly set role in your class.
Pretty much. I mean, I think they offered pretty much most classes that the book and dice games offers. So, you know, your standard fighter, mage, or wizard, I guess in this case. They have a sorcerer, which is like your charisma-based caster versus intelligence-based. The warlock, the druid,
Yep.
the barbarian, the monk, cleric. Am I missing one?
The ranger.
The ranger. Right, so they've got quite and the rogue, of course. So they've got, you know, a pretty broad spectrum, and of course you can multi-class later with multiple classes, not just one, or you know, not like just two. You can multi-class with up to 4, I believe, classes if you really wanted to. And they can make for some pretty strong, powerful combinations. I want to say the level cap in this game was like level 12.
12, yes.
Without mods. So
Yep.
they it's interesting to me that they didn't go max level on this, but I guess there's a reason for it, because the spells get kind of crazy once you get past level 12.
Yeah, that's why they went with. They said they were going to go 10 at first, but then they chose to do 12 because the spells weren't too crazy. Because if we went higher, the game engine probably couldn't handle a lot of the things the spells in D&D 5e could do.
What I thought they did kind of interesting with spells is that they allowed you to cast spells in the middle of conversations. So, you know, spells like friendship, charm, those actually had a play in some conversations where even guidance was something that you could do in the middle of a conversation, which I thought was
It's very RP-like, and read thought, things like that.
What amazed me about this game was a lot about like just the sheer number of things you can do, and it seemed like Larian had a response, like they thought that you could do this, and they actually had like some appropriate response from the game as a result of it. It just amazed me how much like there's a lot of voice acting in this, which is also really awesome. It's nice.
Everything is voiced.
Yeah, it's nice not to have to sit here and read 50 billion pages of story text. It's all kind of acted out, and it does they do a really good job. The characters themselves, like I don't get too into backstories with these games, because often these games are, as much as I want to play them, they're too long typically for me to sit and play through in its entirety. So I don't typically go through like character backstories. I just kind of go through the main story. But this game had such interesting characters that I actually really wanted to go through all that, and kind of see what. And to be fair, most of it was part of the main story anyway. So you got to go through it as you were going through, as long as you remember to bring them with you. If there was one.
I was gonna say certain people, like depending on what's happening, have more personal reasons in certain areas than some others. There was like a few places where if you brought this character, they had like unique lines that they were gonna say. If you brought some other person, they might not have really anything proper to say. So it depends on which party people you want to bring. Usually you go by what are the skills you lack, and you bring people that covers those parts. But certain areas you do want certain characters there, because it has to do with like their quest. Like all characters have their own agenda and their own quest, and while you go through the game, depending on who you have with, certain aspects will happen in the story, which is quite interesting.
Yeah. I my only critique about it was I kind of wish that they were a little bit more direct as to who you should bring and where, because sometimes you would run into some certain people unexpectedly, and you wonder, what would have happened if so and so was there, or what have you. I don't want to ruin too much by saying too much, but I think you know what parts I'm talking about. And it's like I kind of wish that they would have somehow given you a clue that you should have brought somebody with you along the way. But again, I guess that's what replayability is for, right? So, and they do have a save system, so you can always go back and do it. It's just kind of annoying to have to go through certain things again just because you're curious about how it would have gone if somebody else was there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it depends on what kind of player you are too. Like that likes to go through a lot of the options before you make like your final choice, then you're gonna be reloading a whole lot.
Absolutely.
Which is also fun because this game also has like a rest system, so you can go to camp, and then we're in camp you can talk to all your people as well. Which is an interesting thing, because certain classes, like the martial classes, don't need to rest as much because they don't have a lot of like special points. Like spellcasters have a certain amount of level 1 casting, level 2 casting, level 3 casting, and certain martial ones usually don't have a lot of rechargeable resources.
Right.
So they might not go to camp as often, and there's a lot of backstory and things that happen in camp in this game.
Yes, there is. Like Pathfinder, I liked how they had a pretty good tooltip system to explain what each of the abilities were, what they did. I liked how the interface showed you your moves, what you can do in a round. For those not familiar with 5e, it took me a little while to figure out the difference between a action and a bonus action and how that all worked out. But I mean, once you figure it out, it's not too bad. Because it's a little misleading by the way it's worded, but
yeah, but it's kind of good too, because the UI, you can click on bonus action and it shows only the bonus action, so you can click on action, so you can like filter out, so it becomes less confusing.
Yes, agreed. And I liked how this game had, and Pathfinder had the same thing, where there were some serious consequences to your choices in the game too. Like they made differences later on in the game.
Oh yeah.
And they did. Larian did a really good job of not making it feel at least like your choices matter, which I think is really hard in games like this, because from a design standpoint, this is really hard to pull off, because if you make too many choices, the game just gets super bloated and it takes forever to develop. I mean, it'll never come out. This is why some of these games take, 5 to 10 years to develop, because there's just so many choices, and you got to account for each choice that's being made. But
yeah, it's huge the amount of choices you can make in this game, and there is a lot of outcomes. Like certain whole areas can be either wiped out or still be there depending on your choices.
exactly.
Like there are some actual consequences that you feel fairly quick, and others you feel later on.
And this particular setting, if I'm not mistaken, is the Forgotten Realms. Kind of moving on to a different subject, but I loved how in the first act alone, you kind of got not only your overland area where you start at, but you eventually get into the Underdark. You eventually get into some other areas that I honestly wasn't expecting to see until much later in the game. But early on, you kind of get into these places, and it's really cool to see. And the fights are very similar to Pathfinder. You can find yourself in some really hard situations early on if you go exploring too early. But there are some really cool fights just in Act 1 alone. I'm not even getting into the other 2 acts, which I've gotten through, but they were the first act alone had so many really cool, memorable fights that can't stress enough how well this game was put together.
Yeah, definitely. And certain fights are very unique. You don't find that particular fight later in the game for certain encounters, which is kind of interesting. Not only because of the enemy, but because also of the locale, because this game is very vertical as well.
Very
It's
much
not
so.
just... Even if it's isometric, there's a lot of height level that makes difference. So the higher up you are, especially if you're an archer, you gain bonus range, for example. And if you're lower, you might get a minus attack if you try to attack someone that's higher up than you are.
Right. That's the one thing about this game I noticed, is that it actually felt like a true 3D environment, unlike Pathfinder or some other games I've played, or even the previous Baldur Gates, where it felt like it was like a 2D map that kind of made you feel like you had height, but it really wasn't the case, right? Where this one, it actually felt like there was height involved, and it mattered quite a bit.
Yeah. Did quite matter. And it's also interesting that I like the characters also banter with each other a lot.
Yes.
You can really feel their personalities.
Yes, the world did feel alive, especially through your characters and your compatriots as you were going through.
The console hum.
Yeah, even NPCs.
Yeah, the NPCs also interacted. There's a bunch of just even conversations that you're overhearing as you're passing by. The towns felt like they were, actually doing things, not just standing around waiting to be interacted with.
Pulsing glow.
Yeah, you're not the hero, but the city itself is it's living thing doing its own thing, and you're just there in it.
Right.
Which is rare.
Now,
In game.
how did you feel about the itemization in this game? I mean, I felt like it was kind of set. There's certain things you find along the way that you'll always find when you go looking for it at certain places. There wasn't a lot of randomness to it. I don't think that's really true with mini games. Same with Pathfinder, right? You're always going to find certain items in certain places, which is nice in a way because you know what you're getting into, but at the same time, it kind of makes for a little I wouldn't say boring gameplay, but predictable gameplay, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Yeah, certain items are definitely there in certain places, but there's also a certain randomness to other items. It's not like you're gonna find the exact same type. It's only certain items that are always there, but then there's also a bit of randomness to the other items that are with it, so to speak. So, certain items, yes.
Sorry, but those other items that you find, though, right? They're not typically magical. They're just your mundane items that you find every day from other places too, right? At least I can't remember any particular magical items found that were random.
Because you have a gift with you.
I think certain effects for certain items can be a little random, but it's more of those like low-end things and not the like the good stuff is usually set.
Right. I love the detail of the armor and the equipment that these guys wear and how that changes depending on what you wear. They did such a great job from the art standpoint in this game.
Yeah, and the armors look both fantastical, but they also seem practical in most cases.
Right, like they would actually be things you would wear, not just something that looks gaudy or, you know, like for the...
Yeah, you're not World of Warcraft people with, you know, giant pauldrons everywhere and, you know,
right.
You can't hardly move.
Pretty much.
So most armors look slimmer. Of course, the heavy armor look like heavy armor, but without being, you know, too fantastical.
Right.
I should say.
Right.
We're nearing the helm.
Well, I don't really have any more to add for Baldur's Gate 3. Do you have anything else you'd like to talk about, Heimdall?
I'll trust my own judgment.
Well, I think one of the key aspects of this game is you choose your story, how you want to do things, and the world reacts to that. But it doesn't force you to be the hero. You choose how you want to be. I think that is one of the strongest aspects of this game.
Mm-hmm.
And it really caters to that RP feeling, that role-playing feeling.
That's true.
Which the D&D does have. So I think they did a great job. And cinematics, very, very cool, and great level of detail.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, I don't know much about the studio Lariat, but they did just a phenomenal job with this game. It felt very epic, very, you know, like they did just, I can't even stress enough, they did such a great job.
Oh yeah, this is definitely their best game to date, even though Divinity Original Sin 2 really did get a lot of praise.
Yeah, that's a game we still need to get through. I think we started a game and never actually got much further than the beginning.
Yeah, we need to finish it, which is up to 4 players. This game you can also play with up to 4 players as well.
Without mods, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Without mods, yep. For sure.
Alrighty. Let's see here. Next game that we are going to be talking about is Remnant 2. Pull that one up. All right. Now, sorry, go ahead.
Can't say too much about that one because I only played the first game with solo.
Yeah. Well, it's almost the same game. We'll talk about the differences here in a minute. So Remnant 2, this release, what is it, July 25th, 2023, developed by Gunfire Games and published by Gearbox Publishing. This was put on the PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. The current price is $50 for the standard edition, $60 for the deluxe, and $70 for the ultimate. I have about 175 hours in this game so far. And this game picks up from the first, and basically the world is taken over by an enemy called the Root. You are one of the lone survivors that is tasked with... Basically, you come across the ward, and you are tasked with finding a lost member, Clementine, through story reasons, which I'm not going to discuss. But you are basically searching for her, and you are going through the various worlds to find her. This game is very much a Souls-like game, so it is incredibly tough. Now, Heimdall, myself, and Frosty, we just finished Remnant 1 not too long ago, and this game is very similar in that it, you know, you basically have some RPG elements where you have armors that you equip, you have various classes. Now, unlike the first game where you had classes that really didn't matter because eventually you could just pick and choose what you wanted, So like each class got their own mod, and then they had their own starting armors and weapons, and then you could literally switch whatever you wanted. The only thing that I think that the starting classes mattered with is what stats you started with, but again, as you leveled up, you could actually get those exact same stats, and you could even make them better. So the starting class is more like, well, what starting equipment do you want? Where in this game, your classes actually do make a difference because you get certain bonuses with your class. So it's a very different thing. And then this game also allowed you to multi-class later on. So I think you start off with 4 different classes. So you've got the brawler or champion, I think is what they call it, into the marksman or hunter for the ranged DPS style. Then you had the handler, which is a support class, and the medic, which is also a support class. So the handler comes with a doggo sidekick, and your dog is capable of reviving you at a distance, or if you go down, it can bring you back. So it's a very helpful soloing kit. The medic, of course, is being able to heal yourself. The hunter being able to do ranged DPS, like I said before, and then the brawler or champion is the melee DPS. Later on throughout the game, as you're going through, you can unlock different classes. This particular class you're seeing me play here is a Ritualist Engineer. The Ritualist was part of the DLC. The Ritualist is a status effect enhancer. So basically all the different status effects that the different elemental weapons can do, the Ritualist does bonus damage and prolonged damage. The Engineer is a heavy armor specialist and capable of using things like flamethrowers or machine guns, really heavy weaponry. So it's kind of neat to what you can do when you combine these, right? So like in this case, this Engineer has like a flamethrower and is a Ritualist, so his flame damage is really high when he uses it. You get 2 guns, like you can see in this game footage here, and each gun has a mod, so that's like a special ability that each gun can do. Now that was all very similar to how the original Remnant 1 was set up. One of the bigger differences too is that they removed the bonuses from the armor and made it part of the class. So your armor really only handles resistances and armor now. It doesn't do anything beyond that, where in 1 you had bonuses that would allow you to like regenerate mod power, for example, or handle more, do more damage or more crit strike, that type of thing. So really it's just more of a vanity thing with your Remnant 2 character as to what you want your character to look like, and it also affects weight. So I don't know if you remember in Remnant 1, but weight was like how quickly you could dodge. So if you had very lightweight, you could dodge more often because it didn't cost a lot of stamina, and you could dodge further and faster. Whereas if you were really heavy, you would basically just plop on the ground, but it would take you like 2 or 3 seconds to get up, and
I noticed.
And it would give you like really, it would eat through your stamina a lot because you're really heavy, right? So you had to like get up and do all this other stuff. And regenerating stamina in this game is a big deal because that's how you're going to survive most of the time. But with heavier armor, you're not taking nearly as much damage either. So, you know, what would probably outright kill a person, you could probably take 2 or 3 hits before it actually kills you. Lots of itemization in this game. Let me see if I can find a point where I can show that. Let's see.
So compared to the first game, what has been improved except, you know, from the cosmetic parts where you say the armors and such?
So what I feel that they've changed, obviously, if you look on the right here, right, you have a neck piece and then you have your 4 rings. Before it was only 2, right? So you get a little bit more customization with your character on the right. And then these top 2 areas here, you can see the Engineer, and I'm level 10 Engineer, I'm level 7 Ritualist. You know, they added the 4 armor pieces here, which is this is the same as I think there was 4 armor pieces in the first one too. The dragon hearts they changed. So before in 1, the dragon hearts were just a healing mechanism. That's all they did, right? Well, what they did with the dragon hearts is you can kind of see here in this picture. They not only do they have different dragon hearts, they have different abilities. Like this one's on use regenerates 50% of max health over 5 seconds. They have different ones that some basically increase mod power generation. Some will do instant healing for 150% of max health over so much time, so you have a better chance of healing longer, but it takes longer to heal.
So they removed the special armor's abilities and put them basically in different hearts.
Well, they actually took all the armor abilities and put them into the classes themselves. Now, I don't have a good example of that in this video, but each class has 4 perks, and those perks are based on the class. And as you level these classes up, these perks get better. And so, there's like 10 different classes, I think, now, or maybe it's 9. I'd have to really look it up to remember, because I didn't write down how many classes there are. But I know that you have your base 4, and then you could unlock the engineer, the summoner, the gunslinger, the archon, and the infiltrator. And then they just added the ritualist, so that's 11 classes if I'm counting properly. So there's a lot of different classes, and each one of them brings something to the table, and each character can have 2 classes, so you have a total of 8 perks amongst your classes. And then each class has its own I forget what they call it, but it's like a special perk, which is unique to that one, and you can only choose one as so whatever your primary class is, that's the special perk you get. So in the case of like the healer, he regenerates dragon hearts based on how much healing he does to the party. So if I put down a heal and I heal a bunch of people, and let's say I use 2 or 3 dragon hearts to in the process of combat, right, and I start healing everybody, I will start regenerating dragon hearts based on how much I heal everybody else. It actually makes one of the more popular, or one of the more powerful support players in the game by having the meta class. Engineers, if I remember correctly, they get the ability to overclock their turrets. So they get like like the heavy machinery flame turret, like I was talking about before. You can overclock them, which means they get infinite ammo for a period of time, and they do a little bit more damage, if I remember correctly. The ritualist gets the ability to cast like an AOE elemental attack, which basically puts all status ailments on enemies nearby. It actually differs, because like each main class has like 3 separate major powers that they get to choose from. So depending on what you want your class to do, you could pick one, and they can do that too. That's separate from the major perk I was talking about. But there's just a lot going on for these characters. It's much more interesting than what it was in Remnant 1. Remnant 1 was a great test case to kind of show that, hey, this game could work, and it had a really decent story and fun replayability because of its roguelike features. But they really upped their game in characters, or how characters work in 2. So I'm really looking forward to when we play and go through it, because I think you guys will really enjoy the customization. They also changed how leveling works. So like if you remember in Remnant 1, as you leveled up, you could literally level up everything to 20. Every card that we picked up along the way, you could level it up to 20.
I was gonna mention that, like in the first one, we just got tons of cards at the certain points in the story that we could put points into.
Yep, and they've got that here on the right. But the difference is that you can no longer just infinitely add up, just keep getting experience and then, leveling them all up. They cap it at 65 points. So you have a total of 65 points that you can put in to these different abilities. And that's where it ends. So you're going to have to decide, where do you want to put your points? Now, these top 2 points that are kind of orange, these are a abilities that come from your class. So Fortify, for example, comes from the engineer class. Because I'm engineering level 10, I automatically get level 10 Fortify. I'm only level 7 in Ritualist, so I have level 7 Affliction, or level 8 Affliction, because it's always +1. So I have 8 in Affliction. I didn't have to pay for these points. These came from my class. If I wanted these outside of my class, I could pay the points for them once I've maxed them out, if that makes sense.
Right.
And then all these others are ones I bought, these white spots here. So now these bottom ones, these are also part of my class. So I got 1 endurance and 1 spirit as part of my class, my primary class. And I chose not to increase it beyond the initial, but if I wanted to, I could. But everything else, these were all based on me, what I wanted to do for my build for this particular class.
Gotcha.
The weapons and guns kind of pretty much, they really do function exactly the same way as they did in the first one. They didn't really change those too much. You still get mods. Some guns you can mod. Some guns already have a mod on them that you can't change. The primary weapon works much like it did before. You'll notice on the left, they have a little bit more status elements than they did in the first. This was blight, corrosion, electric, fire, and bleed. So, hey, what's going on, Just Jack? Yeah, way. How you doing today, Jack?
Hello, Jack.
So yeah, they really did quite a few changes from when we played in the first one. Or is it the yeah, that was the other part I was going to talk about with the hearts. Got a little sidetracked here. You also notice that they've got 3 bonus like stats that you can choose from. So each heart comes with 3 slots that you can add different effects to. So in this case, I wanted to give myself extra health, more range crit chance, and some more elemental damage. And these are things you pick up as you go through the game. They start off kind of small bonuses, but then as you level up, like I've beaten this game in Apocalypse mode, which is the hardest difficulty. And as you go from, the standard and work your way up through Apocalypse, these things become much more significant. Like you see here in the 7%. They start off at the 1 or 2% level, and then you just build up. So it's kind of neat progression from that perspective. But yeah, there's a lot to this game, and they did such a great job putting that together. It felt way more organic than the first one did. The first one did. We will probably check out the new Final Fantasy VII at some point. Right now, I think it's PlayStation only, so I probably won't even touch it until it comes to PC, since I don't own a PlayStation at the moment. Was Rebirth? The Rebirth is the newer one, right? Rhino?
Sullied and forgotten, but no more. There is a way.
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking, Jack.
To escape this endless drudgery.
But yeah, the first Final Fantasy VII remake was really good. I wish they had gone beyond Midgar City, but I could understand with as much as they put into that, or much effort they put into that first one. I'm really looking forward to the second one, because that's when you get to start to explore the world, if they keep to the story at all. But we'll see how it goes. I'm not sure that I liked, and I'm getting a little off topic because it's got nothing to do with Remnant 2, but I'm not sure that I liked how they changed the format, because I'm a big fan of the JRPG style turn-based combat, and they went to more of an action-adventure combat style in that Rebirth or Final Fantasy remake. So I don't know. We'll see. All right. Moving on from Remnant 2, let's take a look at a game that I know is very dear to Heimdall's heart.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. I did not bring that over. Okay, well, Let me see if I can do this. Hold on, your butts.
Lay aside.
We're jury rigging live, folks.
We are jury rigging this live. That is absolutely correct.
To annihilate your worthless self.
So let's see here. I don't know if I'll get sound through doing this, but we will see. All right. Because I did not think ahead. Let's see.
Well, we can see everything right
You
now.
can see it all. Quite all right.
Yep.
We'll just.
Next.
So we're going to be talking about Outward.
It really wants you.
It does.
Oh.
It really does. He loves me. He really loves me. We are still currently playing this game. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. So I apologize for the really bad formatting of this game, but I did not bring the video over ahead of time. That's my own fault. Is there a way to maximize the screen? Let's see here.
Should be down under.
Well, this is a little weird
volume,
because
right?
of. It's a little weird
there
because this
bridge
is
going
playing
towards the
through
flower?
a.
Damn it, did I remember to bring travel
Screen
screen
mode. There we go.
Okay.
That should. Oh, is it even going to work? Yeah. Okay, that looks
I don't
better.
think we're traveling just yet.
Oh, we're not.
So Heimdall and I have been playing Outward now for almost the entire year of 2023.
Pretty much.
I think we're on what episode?
friends.
Like, oh, okay. So this isn't going to let me full screen it without.
Almost 30.
Yeah, we're almost 30 episodes in right now.
Poison here.
Okay, so it does not like it when I do that. Okay.
Wow. And we play for around 4 to 5 hours each time.
Yeah. 4 hour streams, and why don't you go ahead and talk about while I try to figure out why my computer's bugging out.
Just go to mother replaces most hold F with just a quick press. So, this game is made by a French-Canadian
Oh, I could do that real quick.
developer.
Yeah, so this was released 3/26/2019, and I may be butchering this name, and I hope I'm not.
I could break my.
It's Helium.
Here we go.
Helium
Pick broke.
You just
Bueller
repair your
Vidal.
pick.
Boucher Vidal. Is it
Do it at night, I guess, or
Guillaume?
Find another one.
Guillaume? I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
I had to repair my weapons because they were almost.
Julien.
Julium.
Oh.
And I think it's Boucher, Boucher Vidal. That's both developed and published by. Came out on various platforms. Runs for about $40, and I have hours and hours played of this
This
game.
one 3.
There's 2 or 3.
Okay, this game
Mine.
has
These are
completely bugged out, and I do not know why. Let's
So
see here.
basically, you start the story by you're getting shipwrecked, and then you're gonna try and survive a little bit, and then you come to your hometown, and because of said shipwreck, you're in a kind of a dire situation, and you're giving a few choices in the beginning on what to do. You do a few quests, and when you are gonna go out to said quest, you notice that this game has a lot of survival aspects. You need to drink, you need to eat, you need to sleep. In addition to trying to fight and get new gear and food, because you need money in this game to buy certain things. You can also craft things. So this game has a kind of a simplistic on the crafting system, flanked with luminous sun, which is really helpful in certain aspects, so it doesn't get too complicated when it comes to crafting. Of course, there are crafting recipes to find and or buy.
Thomas was fine.
And to gain new abilities, you need to find trainers in the world that give you specific skills. which is quite interesting because it kind of forces you to go out to adventure, but at the same time you want to, right? Because like, what's going on in this world? How am I supposed to live in this world, right? Because you're in a dire situation, right?
Nice.
Yeah.
So you go and
There's a fire over there.
you go out to the world, and you notice that things are pretty hard. In the beginning, you people will die a lot. Unless you're used to like, no, I wouldn't say Souls game because the fighting is a little clunky.
No, it's definitely a Souls-like game. I feel that. I mean, the fact that it's clunky is definitely Souls-like.
Fair.
Dark Souls was pretty clunky to begin with, and this is every bit as difficult as that style.
Yeah. If you compare it to Dark Souls 1, yes. I was thinking like Elden Ring, the newest.
Oh well,
of the
yeah, of course
Souls.
they've polished it a lot since then, but it is definitely a. I find fighting in this game to be extremely challenging. Like I die a lot. And I mean a lot. Heimdall, if it wasn't for Heimdall being as good as he is at this game, there's no way we'd make it as far as we have. It is bad. Now, it's also harder for me because like I didn't want to play I don't know, the one critique I have about this game is I even though it is technically possible to play a non-magical character, like I wanted to play a rogue when I made this character. And I regret not picking up magic for my character because it felt like magic made things so much easier for both combat and just everyday things in this game.
Well, depends as well because certain of your abilities goes with stamina and not mana.
Right. But having mana to heal, for example, would have been huge. Having light, which light is not that big a deal because you've got these lamps that like I've got here on my belt that you can see with, but the light that the magic provides is so much better in my opinion, and doesn't require fuel.
Right.
I mean, it requires mana, but I felt like mana was much easier to get than some of these fuel cells that you get for some of these, like this power source requires these little batteries that you got to find. Otherwise, you're carrying a lamp with oil and it doesn't light as well. Inventory management is huge in this game.
Massive.
I almost say too much so, as I feel like I spend a lot more time managing my inventory in this game than I do actually playing the game.
Yeah, you don't want to get bogged down because everything has a weight limit, and you're kind of limited as well in the beginning because of your backpack inventory, because you have only a certain amount of slots for them.
Right.
And you need to craft them or find new ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, like also just having a backpack on you, like in combat here, that actually weighs you down. So dodging becomes difficult. I mean, there's a lot to the mechanics in this game. And when you have more weight, your stamina gets blown through a lot quicker too. Looking at myself, I'm about to die again because I wasn't paying attention to my bleeding. Nope, I didn't. Yep, see, there you go. This is how much I died because there's just so many things you got to track in this game.
But the thing is, with the magic healing, though, it's very specific to a certain class.
Oh, is it?
Of training. It is rune magic.
Oh, okay.
Which is very specific to that particular class, which I use most of the time. It's the one I use the most. And if you don't take rune magic, you will not have that particular heal.
Oh, okay.
But as I said, you can still take, because the games, it's kind of interesting when you go to trainers, there is a certain breaking point, like everything beneath the chain, there's a chain in the middle, everything below anybody can buy, but to gain the upper skills, you need to pay for a breakthrough, and you only have 3 breakthroughs in the game which you can do. But everything below that breakthrough chain, you can buy each skill from every trainer. It's just the 3 breakthroughs if you want to go deeper into a certain trainer style.
Yeah,
I think it's the best way to put it.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, I did love the customizability of your class. So you get a little bit of every class, and then you, like you were saying, you can pick up to 3 that you can kind of break through and get more specialized skills. Like, for instance, in my case, I chose the Rogue, which is more of a trapping and using a dagger as an offhand class. And I believe my other class was a hunter, a berserker class to give me more stamina and health. Because I was trying to make a martial character, which, like I said, it worked okay. I picked that up mostly because of the bow skills that it came with, because I wanted a ranged attack. But I almost never use it anymore, which is kind of disappointing, because I thought I would use ranged attacks a lot more often, but I found ranged attacks to be very limiting as a martial class because I could never carry enough arrows. And so what often happened was I would run out of arrows before we got through a dungeon. So then I chose this rogue class to give me a melee class, and now I almost never switch to range because Heimdall's ranged. So basically it works out in such a way that I basically try to keep the mobs on me, focusing on me, while Heimdall blasts them from afar. Which usually ends up with me dying and Heimdall having to fend for herself for however long.
Well, not always, but yeah. As you see this light that's above my character in the front there, you can actually get that light for those below breakthrough. So you can actually buy those, so you can get that light, but it will not have as long. You need to cast it more often.
Right.
It's the difference. So in this game, magic is ritualistic. You need like certain components, and you need to combine magic with something to get your desired effect. Because sometimes you cast a spell, just one spell, and it will be very like a tiny effect, if anything. Like the spark can do a little bit of damage, but it can set a campfire, starting the fire with that. But you can't do much. But if you say put a wind stone, you have a wind sigil, you put that down and use that same spark, you can shoot a really powerful attack with it, as long as you're within that sigil. So the magic in this game is very interesting, since it's very reactive to other types of magic, and certain combinations is of course needed to gain the desired effect. So I kind of like that different, like, magic isn't easy or cheap when it comes to mana. Of course, I have an armor that does a lot of mana reduction cost.
Right. Well, that was the thing with like my class too, with the rogues and their traps. Like I really loved how, so the way the rogue traps work, you get like pressure plates or tripwires, and then you needed items or components to, like if I wanted to make an incendiary trap, for example, I need to come up with incendiary charges. If I want to make a toxic trap, I need toxic charges. I needed nerve gas for certain types of traps. If I wanted a bleed damage, I needed like bug, what they call bug parts in this. I forget what they actually call, what the actual name of it was, but you needed various pieces. Like I could get metal spikes to make a spike trap, that type of thing. It was kind of neat just how versatile the various traps that you can make were with just a couple components. I mean, that trunk on my back there is not just for show. I think I have that thing full of various trap components and trap pieces that we use for our major fights, which is kind of unique to that rogue. The what was the other thing that we had that like just the alchemy system in this is pretty robust too, right? Like there's just tons of potions for everything.
Yeah, you can craft a lot of potions, and you have to cook food. I mean, you can't, if you eat certain raw food, you will actually get a debuff.
Right.
Either lose health or stamina. Can be pretty bad. As you see the inventory, there's like half of it is like food items and teas, because you can get cold if you're out, because there is like temperature. Like if you're in cold areas, you can get too cold and get cold, and you gain debuffs.
Right. What I thought was interesting about this game is it was kind of almost like a cross between Dark Souls and a game like, let's say, Conan Exiles, where you've got the survival aspect to it of, you've got to watch what you drink and eat along the way of your adventure too. It's not just about fighting and exploring and whatnot. You also had to like always go out foraging for food or buying food. We were constantly grabbing things because we knew we didn't want to run out and grab them again later. This game became slow walking simulator more than once on our streams.
Yeah, that is my fault. I loot a little much.
It's not just you; it was me too, man. We were grabbing everything we could because we knew we didn't want to run back.
Yeah, that's true.
And money is, I wouldn't say it's scarce in this game, but like it is hard to come by early on. So
early on, yes,
you're constantly grabbing stuff in hopes that you can make enough money just to have things, food for the day, basically in the beginning. I think you had to build up to like, what was it, like 500 silver or something like that, or you had to get a tribal writ as part of your main quest for the beginning.
I think it was 150 silver or a tribal writ.
Something like that. Yeah, it didn't seem like a lot of money, but when you actually like went to go get money from just foraging and stuff, it's like, oh man, this may take a minute. This is not...
You don't get a lot of money,
right,
for certain things.
Once you start building your character up and getting some skills and start to actually go and adventure into various caves and explore caves and stuff, then you start getting a lot more. But man, I'd say the start was pretty rough.
The start is really hard.
Yeah. Once you get to the point where you're actually getting your classes kind of solidified, then it starts getting easier. But man, it takes a little while to get there.
Yeah, and position is very crucial as well.
Yep.
In this game, because dodging enemies is really important, but then you also need certain stamina for other things. You can't be running around all the time, because then you're going to run out of stamina. And if you don't have stamina food that helps with that, you're going to run out real quick.
Yeah.
Same with mana and health if they hit you, of course.
Absolutely. I will say that I appreciate that they tried to at least somewhat voice act this game for the main story quest, at least. What they did is they maybe read like a couple lines here and there, or read the important lines out of each of the dialogues, and then the rest you were kind of left to read and go through. I appreciate that they at least had something there.
Yeah.
They, I honestly, I don't know much about this developer. I don't know how big they are, but I thought that they did a pretty good job. As I understand, they're a small studio.
They're new. This is basically their first game.
This was their first game. Yeah. So they did pretty good, all things considered. I mean, the art style is a little dated, but it still feels nice. I mean, this was made back in 2019.
Yeah.
So even for 2019, this looks a little bit dated to me, but there's a lot of detail in here. And what I loved about this game was, like, if I saw something far off in the distance, I could typically go there and explore it. There were very few exceptions to that. I see a big old tower in the distance. Well, let's go see what that's all about. See a big old flower somewhere. I wonder what's over there. I mean, there's a lot of really cool things that they did in this game. The DLCs, let's see, I think this game has, 3 DLCs now? Is that right?
I think it is two. Yeah, it's 2 big DLCs. 2
DLCs, right. We played through the main game and the first DLC. I think we're nearing the end of the second, at least we hope we are.
Yeah.
We were talking about this the other day. It's like the first DLC was really good. We really enjoyed that DLC. The main game was really good. a little bit of an anticlimactic ending, but for the most part was really, really good all the way up to that point. Now we played, there's 3 different stories, if I'm not mistaken, or at least 3 different paths to the story.
There's 4 with that first DLC.
Oh, the with the 4th one being with the, okay, fair enough. But either way, we played through the Monsoon, or what was the name of the religious order? The Illyrian, or I can't remember.
The Holy Order?
Yeah, basically the Holy Order path is the way we went through in our playthrough. And it had some really cool moments, and it was very entertaining. The ending was lackluster because honestly we got through it and it was kind of like, whoa, wait, that was it? That was the end? We blew through that last part pretty quickly and without much effort.
Yeah, we're not going to say what it is, but it went like, oh, we did it?
We're done? That's it?
We're done? That's it? Compared to certain other encounters that we have
had to deal with. Yeah. It was like, wow, okay, that was, I mean, it wasn't bad. It was just like, oh, okay, I figured there'd be more, you know?
Yeah.
But no, it was... overall, I really enjoyed my experience. Now, I think part of that was because we did add some mods for a quality of life. Because I think if I had to play this game the way it was originally intended, I would have gone insane. The no place to store your goods until you finish the game, basically. And what was the other thing? So we had like the inn stash where we could share our stash amongst all the inns. We added some readability of text. So like what you see in the bottom left here, where you can see like the health in numbers, that wasn't there. And I think and I think we added timers to like debuffs and buffs, so we had a rough idea of when they would expire.
Yeah, it's part of that mod.
Yeah. Were there any other mods that we added that I don't? I mean, we didn't add too many. They were all quality of life stuff.
Yeah, those were really the 2. We needed like 2 other mods just to have the mods able to work.
Right. But overall,
stash is down. No, trying to think if there was. Oh yeah, it was certain shared quests.
Oh yes, rewards. And the shared quest rewards, because if one person completed the quest, only they would get the reward.
Yep.
So we got the one that fixed that. So that worked out pretty well for us, though. I mean, I think I could spend like another hour just talking about this game. There's just so much to it. It was really freaking good.
Yeah.
And it was definitely fun to play it with a friend. I don't know that I would have enjoyed this game solo. In fact, I don't think I would have gotten very far in this game solo. This was a very tough game. A very, very tough game. Anywho, all right, let's see here. Next game on my list, we will... And my computer just blipped out. Awesome. What is going on today? All right, well... okay, now it's back. Fantastic. All right, moving on to the next game that we played. Now, I only played this game very briefly.
Let's get this over with.
Let's see here. So this game is Evil West. This game came out November 21st, 2022, developed by Flying Wild Hog and published by Focus Entertainment. Came out for PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. Currently goes for about $50. I've only got about 8 hours in this game, so I'm not going to talk about it too long. The main character is Jesse Rentier, an agent of a supernatural hunting operation or organization, and he sets out to protect the American frontier. This game is very much like a Dark Souls style game. There was nothing... I mean, the art style was really good, and it was really fun, but the... this game seemed kind of linear. Like, there really wasn't a lot of... I mean, there is some exploring, but, like, you just kind of follow through the story. You go through the different maps. You fight the big bads. It was a cool story, and it had some interesting RPG elements. So, like, you could upgrade things. Like, you'll notice, like, I've got, like, these little electrodes on my arm. So I have these electric attacks along with, like, my guns on my back. Like, I've got a rifle and a pistol, and I think even a flamethrower there. So you, as you're going through and you grab various items along the way, you can upgrade them, make them more powerful. My problem with this game is that it didn't really feel like, as far as like a game itself, like it added anything to the genre. It was just a really good looking game, if that makes sense. And I mean, like I said, it had a good story. It was interesting, but like the bosses were, you know, I wouldn't say unique. You've seen similar bosses before. They just look different with a different skin, right, for this world. But like the mechanics are fairly similar. It was challenging, but and I wouldn't say it's a bad game by any means. It just didn't really seem to add a lot to the genre. And I honestly didn't finish it just because I had other games I wanted to play, and it just didn't. This particular game didn't hold my interest for very long. I do plan to go back and finish it at some point, but yeah, there's not much more to be said. And I'm probably not going to spend a lot more time on it since I really haven't played a whole lot compared to some other games that we played in the past.
Right.
So we'll go to the next game. This is Star Control Origins. Star Control Origins was released on September 20th, 2018, developed and published by Stardock Entertainment. Came out for the PC only. Price is about $30 for the standard edition, $50 for the Galactic edition, and I've got about 17 hours played in this. This game is about basically Earth has created its first space-worthy ship, and you are its captain. And you're going out into the big wide galaxy to kind of learn what's going on and you know, make your foothold into the galaxy for mankind. And this game is really just about space exploration. There are some RPG elements to it because, like, the ship that you see there, you can actually kind of equip various tools and equipment on. Different weapons, different shields, that type of stuff. You go around, you hunt for resources, you talk to alien races. There is an overarching story that you go through its quest system. If you've never played the Star Control series, what it's known for is its humor. It's got a really good sense of humor in its story, and the graphics and the updates were really very well done. Star Control 2 was one of my favorite games growing up back in the day, so it's definitely worth a look to see if you've never played this game. Heimdall will be able to comment on our next game as we are moving on to games like Stardew Valley.
I can say a lot about that game.
Stardew Valley released February 26th, 2016. It is developed and published by Concerned Ape. Platform for PC. Price is going for about $15. I've got about 62 hours in this game myself. I know Heimdall has a little bit more. Just a little bit.
Just a bit.
Yeah. The premise of this game is that your grandfather passes on to you a farm in Stardew Valley, and you basically decide to leave the corporate life of working for, I think it was Joja, the Georgia Corporation, and come to live the quiet life in Stardew Valley, in which you get to meet its town, the town citizens of the town of Stardew Valley. One thing that stands out to me about this game is, like, when I first played it, I was expecting this to be, because it was my son who recommended it to me, right? I'm thinking, like, oh, this is like a kid's game. Okay, cool. So we go and play it. And I was taken aback by how detailed the backstory is for a lot of the characters in the town, and how dark some of them got.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not like bad to the point where I don't think kids could play it, but like it really does delve into certain topics that I was not expecting to find in this game. I was expecting this game to be kind of like this laid back, easygoing farming game. And it turned out to be a little bit more than that, but it's still really well done. I don't know, Heimdall, what were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I came into it, Frosty introduced me to it. It's like something, it was a cute game we could play. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. I was like, yeah, you can handle the farm. I was like, yeah, I can handle the fishing. There's other things you can do in addition to farming. There's farming, there's fishing, there's also dating, if you wish. There are, because you're next to a town called Pelican Town, where all the villagers are, and you can also go into the mines. So there is a part of the supernatural in the game too, because there is a wizard in the game, which you learn very quickly that there is. So it's kind of interesting mix of genres in this like old styled 2D game.
Yeah, I honestly didn't have any expectations when I played this game. I was really just originally going to play it just to play with my son because he wanted to play a game together, and
Right.
I really didn't have any expectations for it. I figured, oh, okay, well, this will be fun, you know, whatever. But I was amazed with the pixel art. Like, they did such a great job. Like, even in the scene that you see here, right? You know, like moving tires and like a whole backdrop. It's just so beautifully done.
Oh yeah.
And this was done by one guy. I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Holy crap. I
Yeah,
mean,
he's working on 1.6.
yeah, I saw that.
Gonna add a lot more.
Yeah.
To the game.
So he's done just such an amazing job with this game. There was a lot more to it too. Like, you know, like I'm thinking, okay, it's a farming game. It's not going to be that deep. And there was a lot to the farming. There's actually a lot to all of it. Even the fishing, which I hated when I first played. I didn't understand it at all.
Same.
I don't think I have any movie video of me playing the fishing game, but that was a challenge for me to find to wrap my head around and figure out what they were wanting me to do.
Yeah, that took a while, but once you got the hang of it,
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. And this farm is like a huge mess when you first get here, so you're spending a fair amount of time just cleaning it up to make it look nice. But I liked how this game had some interesting. What made it interesting is the time constraints that you have in this game, because as much as you want to do a lot in a given day, you've only got so many hours of a day to work, and the days in this game go by fast, real fast. So you've got to budget your time. As much fun as it would be to have like this massive farm, for example, if it's just you, there's only so much you can water in a day with the beginning equipment. It's not until you pick up some of the more advanced equipment later on that you can actually manage larger farms and do more things. This game was, like I said, so much more detailed once you started getting into it. Like, I thought maybe I'd play it for like maybe 8 to 10 hours and be done. And here I am, 62 hours later, and I'm still not even done through my first playthrough.
yeah, for me, add another 0 behind that.
I believe it.
I have a lot of. The good thing about this is the balance. Like, they add things in a good, timely manner. Like, because you see the people talk to you, right? And you have a mailbox, and in there comes a lot of info. And you can go into town, talk to people, and you learn things about them. But you can also learn things that has to do, because there is a bit of crafting in this game too.
Just a bit.
And
small amount, not too much.
Yeah, and then you can buy like what you expect to be on a farm, like a barn, a coop, and then you can get animals, and from animals you can get certain resources, and you can turn them into either food or things you can sell, because of course you need money in order to do certain things and buy new equipment and gear.
Right.
And it's really interesting because this game also has events. Like, there's like the spring dance, for example, which is a good way to talk to all the people that's near town and get to know them a little bit. And as Solo said, certain aspects of certain characters can be quite dark. Certain topics that goes on, and you feel like most of the characters are their own. They have their own quirks, how they are, what they like. Since you can give gifts to them.
Yep.
And participate in certain events as well. Up to you if you want to go or not, but for most part, I think you should.
Yeah. Actually, I think they're kind of well, no, I guess they're not technically required because you can simply just go to bed that day, but they really do progress the story along and add some extra flavor. I mean, that was the part that kind of took me aback, was like how alive the town. I mean, like the guy spent some time on character development for the town. They really did a lot.
Each town you have their own schedule and do their things, and depending on the season, certain things change, and depending on the weather, certain things change as well.
There was a lot of details that were just amazing to me that they added in this game, and it wasn't such a simple game as I thought it was. So it really surprised me.
Yeah, it has a lot of depth, especially since the 1.5 update. They added a whole other area to the game as well. Yeah, I don't think you've gotten that far.
No, I haven't. I really haven't.
Which adds a whole other aspect of things. New enemies, new areas, a lot of different story arcs as well, which is kind of interesting. I kind of like that they did that. And depending on what you do, you can also open up certain abilities and skills that you have, which you can level up the more you do them.
Right.
As well. So to gain more farming, you need to do a lot of farming. To gain, points into fishing, to unlock, you get better at it, you need to do a lot of fishing, for example. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And the journal keeps you grounded. Then you have like a main story basically to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's quite a bit, and then you've got like these little side quests that you could do in the town too. That help get you to know the townspeople better, and you get to learn more about them as you talk to them. Like I said, there's a lot, and I just wasn't expecting it from a game looking like this. I thought to me it was presented as a kid's game, and it had so much to it that there's a little bit of enjoyment for everybody out there.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. You can choose, if you do it multiplayer, you can divvy it up. Like, you will focus on this and I will focus on that. So you get different aspects. So your people will be more streamlined to certain things.
Yes.
Like maybe this person is good at fishing and mining, for example. And then the other one is good at handling the animals and the crops. Some are better at gathering and foraging items, for example.
Did they add some functionality for that in the Stardew Valley? Because I don't remember them having like skills or anything like they did in like Sunhaven, for example, which we'll talk about here in the future in a little bit.
Oh, they do. It's just that it's not as prominent as it is in Sunhaven.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that because I know that they had like tools that you can upgrade along the way. That was pretty much it, though, that I remember. The
tools, yes. But say you upgrade in foraging, you can gain an extra forage, for example, when you do things. And when you do fishing, you can gain crab pots. And depending on what choice you take, you can get like the crab pots.
That's right. I forgot about that. They do have like a little bit of as you go along and level up. That's right. I do remember that now. It just wasn't as easily found. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. And the more the villagers like you, the more they do for you. They can send you recipes. They can even send you items that you need. Can send you like rocks, wood, even dishes of food.
You can even go into their rooms. I mean,
exactly. You can go into their rooms. See, not good enough friends. With Henry, for example. So definitely. So a lot of things progress, and depending on some of your choices, you can change a little bit what happens in town. There's a few choices. Mm-hmm. So it does change, and it's kind of interesting to get to know the people in this town. Everyone is a little quirky, which is kind of funny. But of course, you're there to start a farm, make money, and you have to do it by season as well. Certain crops only grow in certain seasons, right? Which makes sense. and you want to gain as much money as you can. But then you also need to remember certain things take energy,
Yes.
and you need to be able to handle that. So you can't just make a huge field in the beginning and try and water everything each day.
Right.
You will not have the energy for it unless you go out forage and try and eat to gain some energy. Still, it is time consuming, and time, as you see, goes fairly quickly. And you see in the upper right.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of little things in this game that kind of add up, because like I remember when we were playing at one point, it was like we were just constantly fighting time. We were trying to get all these things crafted in a day, so we would spend a lot of time in the mines, for example, trying to collect the metals and stuff we needed. I think Shode was farming for days as we were having to get up, water the plants while she was dealing with all the farm stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, there was a lot to it. Just
definitely.
I mean, there's a lot of good things we could sit here and talk about all day on this game, but yeah, it is one of... I really didn't expect to enjoy this game nearly as much as I did. They did such a great job.
Indeed.
All right.
And made by one guy too.
Yeah, made by one person. I'm still floored by that.
Yep.
All right, so now we're going to move on to Sunhaven. This game was developed March 11th, 2023, or sorry, released March 11th, 2023. This was developed and published by Pixel Sprout Studios. Came out for the PC and the Switch. Currently, the game's going for $25. I have 86 hours played in this game. Much like Stardew Valley, this player inherits a farm in the world of magic and fantasy races. I forget the name of the town. I guess it is Sunhaven. I don't know.
Yeah, the ton of Sunhaven, yeah.
But there's like, I guess there's more than one town that you deal with in this game, because you deal with like an elven town, a demon town, and you get like multiple farms. There's a lot going in this game, but what set this game apart to me was, one, the pixel art is on a completely different level than Stardew was. This is crazy level pixel art.
This game is like, what, 4 years newer?
It is 4 years newer. Yeah.
Beta game.
But even that, I mean, pixel art, the style is just crazy different.
Yeah, it's very crisp.
It's very crisp, and it's got like an extra level of detail to it. I'm not even sure how they pulled this off. It's really neat.
Yeah.
They did really well, and then even like they did like full like pixel portraits of these characters, which is also crazy. Almost visual novel level of pixel art.
Yep.
For this type of game.
Yeah, they have lots of reactions as well.
Yep. Yeah. So like you can see in this little video here, I'm playing like a Naga character. So they have like various fantasy races. It's not all humans. They've got beastmen, angels, demons, elves, just various races, and each of them have their own like bonuses and specialties. Much like in Sunhaven. I mean, this game honestly is just Sunhaven with a different skin and a couple extra mechanics that didn't exist. For example, this has magic in it, which there wasn't magic in Sunhaven to the level that this game has. At least I don't think there was.
Not that you can actually use, but there is magic in Stardew Valley, but not in the way you can't use it for your benefit, so to speak.
Right.
In
so
the
like
same way.
You could use magic to like bring rainstorms to water the plants, for example, or cut down large amounts of trees.
Use things like that. So you can do a lot of things in this game, but you can use it for combat in this game as well.
Right. So I mean, there's a lot that can be done. And just like in Stardew Valley, there's a whole town with its own characters to meet and woo if that's what you want to do.
Yep.
There's lots of stuff to do. I will say that I appreciated that they made mining and adventuring more interesting than it was in Stardew Valley, meaning that there were like actual bosses that you would fight along the way. It wasn't just go down mine just to get the gear, but there's actual like objectives that you can hit along the way.
Yeah, true. And this game has a lot of crafting as well. I mean, it is very similar to like the basic stuff that Stardew Valley had. This game has too now.
Yeah,
especially with the updates.
Yep, I'd say that this game improved upon the Stardew Valley model. It really had a really good RPG feel to it. Your equipment was a little bit more. There's a lot more equipment.
This game actually has equipment. The Stardew Valley only had cosmetics.
Exactly.
This game actually you can get better armor, better weapon. Well, you can get better weapons in Stardew Valley, but they actually had armor in this one.
Right. I'm trying to remember. I don't think the fishing was particularly hard in this game. Like I felt like everything was fairly intuitive.
Yeah, it was easier to get.
Yep.
The fishing.
Of
course.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Then you have like the skills, as you see, the exploration, farming, mining, combat, and fishing are like the main things.
Yeah.
And you have 4 rows of each style, which you can mix and match a little bit in.
Mm-hmm. I did appreciate the fact that, like, if I was playing with someone else, I didn't have to buy certain skills because someone else had already bought them. And so we would all technically benefit from it, but it gave that person who bought those skills like a role. So it made them, a little bit more unique to the team in some way, shape, or form.
Since certain skills were global.
Yep.
Affected everyone.
Right. I think we had, is it up to 4 players? I can't remember how many players. I think it was 4 players that you could play with. Maybe it was 6 at most, but
yeah, I think I want to say that they changed that to 8, but
it could very well be. I'd have to look. I know that I've played it with at least 4 other players, 3 other players, with a total of 4 of us playing. But beyond that, I'm not sure how many can actually be played. But this was a nice change. I really enjoyed. Again, this is another one that I bought because a friend suggested it, and I didn't think I was going to enjoy it nearly as much as I did. It was a very nice surprise because I thought it was just going to be a rehash of Stardew Valley with maybe better graphics, but it turned out to be really more in depth and did a little bit better job. I don't remember any particularly dark elements in this game. I just remember it being, and to be fair, I haven't completely finished it yet either, but like in the main town, for example, stories didn't get quite as dark as they did in Stardew, so.
Well, it took longer to really get the stories going in this one.
That's true.
For all the people, and it was up to 8 players you can play in this game at the same time.
Oh, 8 players now. Fantastic.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Yep. It used to be 4, but since the last few updates, I think it's 8 now.
Wow. I can't even imagine playing with 8 players, man. You'd have like maybe 2 in each profession, I guess, but man, that would still be a lot.
Yeah, if you're well organized, I think you can do pretty well. And also, you can change the timer, how fast the game time works in this one.
That was nice.
From 20 minutes per day to 40 minutes per day, I think it was, right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Because I remember, like, we at one point we were like, okay, we're going to make this day longer because it's so short. We couldn't hardly get anything done. But like by the time you got out there, you might have done like 1 or 2 things, and then you had to run back before you fell asleep where you were.
Yeah, because I think you could be at most to 11 p.m. out before you get to your passing out syndrome.
Yes.
And in the Stardew Valley, it was to 2 a.m.
Right.
Was the latest. So your day was technically almost shorter.
Right. It really was. But it was nice to be able to switch that out.
Yeah, and it was kind of interesting since you gain a lot of rewards for things. You can choose like the extra rewards is really nice to further along if you're specializing in a certain area. So it's kind of nice that you can like focus a bit more how you do things. I think I was a mage mostly in this one with a crossbow.
Yep. That was
So
another thing that was really nice is they had a combination of ranged and melee options, where at Stardew it was pretty much just melee. That's all you really had. I don't remember there being any ranged options, so that was kind of a nice change. Although I'll be honest, once I started playing with the crossbow, I started going, well, why would I ever play with a sword? I'll have to play as a melee character once just to see if it makes that much of a difference. But I'm sitting here like, range was too good in this game, so it kind of made it feel like the sword was a little obsolete.
Yeah, positioning is very important when you play melee. Like, you can't be right in front of them because then the enemy will damage you. So you need to like always skirt the enemy, basically. It's a little more tricky, but I think the damage output is slightly stronger when it comes to the melee.
Yeah. Well, there's also I noticed a bunch of combat perks where it allowed you to increase your armor and the amount of damage you take. So I imagine if you took all those and you started using your sword, you would start doing, you'd be a lot more tanky and survive more. I just know that when I first played, I started with a sword and I was like, you guys were just killing circles around me because I could not kill. I would die a lot more often than you guys would. So it almost felt like the crossbow was way overpowered compared to the sword, and there really wasn't much of a benefit to it. But
well, we didn't do as much damage as you did per attack. But you needed to get in there to actually attack first.
Exactly, and that was challenging because like if their little hitbox hit you in any way, you were considered damaged. And that was really tough early on when you had no armor or like a shield or something to block damage, which they didn't really have. I don't even think they have an option like that in this game. They might, but I don't remember it. Because again, I didn't play with the sword after that. I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to go crossbow from now on. This is a waste of time.
Crossbow is pretty nice, especially when you go down the archery path.
Yeah.
When you level, you gain a lot. You can shoot more arrows at one time.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think that is enough for Sunhaven, as that is very similar to the last game we looked at. We're going to look at Potion Permit next. Potion Permit came out in, September 22nd, 2022. Developed by Mass Hive Media and published by P-Cube. Came out for various platforms. Currently runs for about $20. I've got about 33 hours in this game. You're a city alchemist that comes to the city of Moonberry to try and solve the various problems of the town. The game's a pretty laid back and easy game. There's not much to it. I shouldn't say there's not much to it. It's just that it's not a very challenging game. This is a very easygoing game, kind of like the games that we were just discussing with like Stardew Valley and Sunhaven. You're really going out and you're collecting materials to make your alchemy ingredients. You don't really farm like you do in Stardew Valley or Sunhaven. It's more or less you just go out into the wilderness and you're collecting herbs, you're collecting bug parts or animal parts, cutting down trees, breaking apart rocks to make various alchemical reagents. And, as you're going through the story, they're needing certain alchemical remedies to their problems. And so you're out there discovering new remedies and, making potions to help the various ailments that occur to the various town members or the citizens of the Moonberry. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about this game because it was pretty simple. I mean, there's not much RPG going on here as far as like itemization or leveling skills. Really, there's just a bunch of mini games for making these potions, basically like a Tetris style level of gaming. Let's see if I can fast forward to a point to kind of show what I'm talking about. So here we are making a potion, right? This neutralizing herbal balm, and each component has its own little like Tetris shape, right? So you got these shapes that you have to build this shape in, this empty space in with these Tetris shapes, and it doesn't really matter what ingredients you use so long as you can fill up these spaces perfectly. And the permitted ingredients affect which of these pieces that you can use, or these items that you can use. It wasn't a terribly hard game. The challenge you'd run into is you may not have enough of a certain type of component in order to make the potion is that you want to make, or make it the same way. Sometimes you had to substitute other components, which would change the entire composition. The minigame itself wasn't that difficult, but it was challenging from the standpoint if you didn't go out and farm a lot, like I'm missing some components here, and you needed that said component, well, you're going to have to go out and you're going to have to farm those components in order to be able to use it later. I think there was a fishing mini game, but the fishing was pretty simple. It wasn't really difficult to do. Basically, you were just reeling in a line, and then if the line, I think I even have an example of this here too. Yeah, so here's me fishing. You're just reeling in a line, and the line will turn red as there's a bunch of stress on the line. So as long as the line didn't snap, you could eventually reel in the fish. And just like the other two games, you know, you're meeting all the different townspeople, you're gaining favor with them, potentially even dating some. But the game itself was a pretty simple, laid-back game. I got about 33 hours in to complete the story, so a little under $1 an hour in this game, so it's not too bad at full price. I can't really say much more about it.
It has an interesting art style. It's very similar to Sunhaven. It's the colors are just a little bit more. The gamma is higher.
Muted. Yeah, it's a little bit more muted, I think. And like I appreciated the art style, and even the animation is really cool how they did that walking animation for her. She's in this character.
With the hair flowing like that.
Yeah. You can cook too, but cooking just basically increases your energy through the day. So there's not much to it. And that again just comes from animal parts or buying things from the store. There's no real farming outside of buying your alchemical ingredients, and cooking is just as simple as selecting it from a menu. There's no mini game to it. It's just you just make it. So this was a fun little cozy game, but beyond that, there wasn't too much to it. The challenges weren't terribly difficult. I don't remember fighting any bosses per se. Most everything you do is just revolves around healing the sick villagers. Now I don't have an example of that in this video, but every day when you wake up, there's a chance for a villager to be sick, and then you got to go identify its ailments, and there's a mini game for each ailment, and then you would build a alchemical remedy with that Tetris thing I was showing you earlier to solve their problem. And then of course you could always sell your remedies too if you needed money for whatever reason. There's a blacksmith where you collect various metals to upgrade your weapons and such. But other than that, it's just talking to villagers and helping them around town. Pretty simple game. So we are going to move on to another one of Heimdall's favorites, Conan Exiles.
I have a lot of hours in this game.
Yeah, so Conan Exiles was released on May 8th, 2018, both developed and published by Funcom. Currently out for PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. Price is going for about $40 for the base game. I have about 179 hours in this game. I'm sure Heimdall has plenty, or at least that much in there.
I have 2,000.
So you played it a little bit. That's what you're telling me.
Just a tad. Just a tad. Yeah. 1,998.2 to be exact.
Yeah. So you can see me going through character creation here, which I was actually kind of surprised with how in-depth the character creation was for this game. It was pretty cool. Basically with this game, you are a person left for dead, and the Conan comes in and saves you and tells you to survive, and you just survive in this world of savagery and sorcery. It's I don't want to give away too much because there is an overarching story throughout this whole game, but it's really
As you
neat.
say that you're transported into the exiled lands is basically where you are crucified to either survive or die in this area because of said crimes that someone said you did.
Right. Yeah, so this game is basically very much like a base building survival game. There's lots of adventure to be had, lots of places to explore. I mean, again, there's a lot going for this game. A lot of different play styles with the different weapons you can choose from. They added sorcery to this game, and they added something else.
Shall I cut you down? Corpse tree.
What was
They've
it?
added a lot.
Well, they've added a lot since this release, but I'm trying to think of the bigger things. There was
Civilized men are soft.
Horse riding.
the horse riding. That's what it was. The mounts.
Yep.
Yeah. Which was huge because, man, getting around in this game can be fun to say the least.
Yeah, it can be tough until you get to a certain point in the game,
Yeah.
which makes it a little easier to get around.
Battle.
Now, this game is not intended for younger audiences. I tell you what, there's a lot of brutality and nudity in this game if you have the settings set properly for it.
Like Baldur's Gate 3, this has dong physics.
Yes.
This land is not.
Let's just leave it at that.
Yes.
But getting a little further into the game itself, or to the gameplay itself, I love the graphics and the detail they put into this game. It reminds me a lot of Ark in terms of the
Yes.
detail.
Those two were kind of competing with each other. It's the same engine.
Yes, it is. They've got just
Is it Unreal 4?
5, I think, isn't it?
No, I think it's 4.
Is it 4?
It was before 5
Okay.
was out.
Still pretty good, all things considered. And this is where I was having trouble with my controller not working. Had to really think with it there. But they have a whole quest system that kind of leads you through, at least to give you a rough idea. There's no real hand-holding in this game in terms of teaching you how to do things. It'll teach you the absolute basics, and then you're kind of left to fend for yourself on how to get things to work.
From lands I've never heard.
Yeah, it's basically the tutorial system is the journey system
Yeah.
in this game. So you need to have a certain journey activated for those to actually
Haunts me.
get to the next level, get to the next part.
Right.
So you can't go around and try and do like things from 3 different journey steps and think it will just get updated like it was before.
Right.
Whoever reads this
So it's kind of interesting. And again, you don't really need sleep in this game, but you do need food and water.
know how cursed.
Yeah, I don't think you ever sleep in this game except for when you die, I guess. You just come back
Yep.
from your bed. That's pretty much it. So apparently
But you
these...
can.
Go
The
ahead.
beds are basically respawn points, but you can actually emote laying down,
Oh, sure, you can emote it. Right.
but you don't actually need it.
Right. But aside from that, they have a leveling system, and you may have noticed I leveled up a few times in this video. They, as you collect things, as you fight things, you gain experience, and you can use those to purchase stats. See if I got an example of that here, where you can, here we go. So you've got these various stats that you can go through and purchase, and you notice these little nodules along the way, or nodes along the way, which give you bonus perks as you level up these different stats. These double perks here, where you can choose one or the other. and they give you a nice description of each one as you're going through of what these different nodes do. So you can kind of plan your character along the way ahead of time as to what you want him to be able to handle. It's not unlike many other games. Strength is your damage for strength-based weapons. Agility is your ability to dodge, and also
agility weapons.
Agility weapons. Your vitality is your health. Your authority is for if you have thralls or slaves, for lack of a better term, you can make them stronger. Grit is your ability to basically take damage and deal with stamina. And then your expertise is more to do with encumbrance and crafting bonuses. But I think, what was the level cap in the base game? It was something like 60, if I remember right.
60,
yeah. So you can't just pick everything you want. You got to kind of plan your points accordingly. And if I remember right, I think it's 20 is the cap for any of these stats. So
20 is the cap.
At most, you can max out 3, or you can get a combination of them to give you what you want. So you kind of have to plan out your character a little bit to decide what you want. And then we'll see if I can get to some... here we go. So here you can kind of see the different crafting... some crafting options. There's a lot of crafting options. You can see there's a lot of different tabs here at the top that you can pick from. I'm looking at weapons to start out right now, right? But you have like a sword and board, two-handed weapon. I'm sorry, I guess this would be the two-handed weapon. Some daggers, a bow, single-hand weapons, lances eventually. And then, of course, these are the upgrades of those same types to iron or steel, star metal, what have you.
And then, of course, you have like religion. You also have the sorcery.
Yep.
And then you also have decorations that are purely cosmetic, just to make your place look good.
Yep, and construction as well. So there's tons of different things. And we'll see some examples of construction a little bit later in the video. But like that's probably a big portion of the game, is just finding a good location to build a base or build a stronghold to. Mostly, for the most part, it's just to store your stuff. But later on, once you start getting enough wealth, you start getting purges, which occur every so often, and you got to have enough defenses to deal with those purges.
They have revamped the purge system now.
Oh, have they?
Yeah. So now you have to make a treasure room.
Right.
And you can actually. Depending on how much gold and trinkets you find, depends on how hard the purge is going to be, and you can actually click on it to actually make the purge happen.
Oh, okay. So that's a little different than what I remembered.
Yeah. So now you can actually trigger the purge, and depending on how much items you have in your coffers, depends on how hard the purge will be, but also the rewards. The rewards now you can actually get. You don't need to knock out people in the raids, because now it used to be like that before. You had to knock out people during a raid, which was really hard, because sometimes you can have like 15 people attacking you, and trying to knock out one person with a truncheon to bring to the Wheel of Friendship, it's not really easy. I say Wheel of Friendship, but it's the Wheel of Pain from the Conan movie. But but we call it the Wheel of Friendship.
Wheel of Friendship. Yeah, that's a nicer way to put it. Why not?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting that way now. So they've changed that part in the latter updates.
Now, one thing that was kind of unique to this game, and I really appreciated, was they had a overarching story, but not only that, they had really cool dungeons in this game that you could actually explore once you got strong enough. And they had some interesting bosses along the way added to the story. With unique items. Yep, absolutely. You kind of needed to go through this as you went to up, because not everything that you can build is in that menu I showed before. You find things along the way. Not just in dungeons, but in the world itself. So there's a lot of exploration that needs to be done. I will say that some of these items that you have to find are hard to find because like you could easily overlook them if you're not paying attention.
Yep.
And
certain bosses doesn't always drop said thing. It's a
Right.
bit randomized.
yeah, there's an RNG portion to it too, so you're gonna have to revisit these dungeons every so often. I will say that this game can be a little unforgiving in cases depending on how you have it set up. Now, I ran with the default settings because I wanted to see how the developers wanted you to play this game. And I know my brother and I played through this together, and we ran into a situation that caused us to quit the game because we had spent a lot of the game getting all these armors, all these weapons, got ourselves really well put together, and we came across this event in a desert city, and this event, like, literally we got swarmed. So there's no way this event was designed for like a single player experience. This was definitely for like a lot of people to be part of it, because we were getting hammered by elite enemies time and time again, and we ended up dying in the middle of all that. Now in this game there are corpse runs, so you have to run back to your corpse to get all your equipment back.
Yep.
And all our corpses were being guarded by a bunch of elites, so getting in there, getting our equipment, and getting out took about a good solid hour of running to the city, dying, coming back, wash, rinse, repeat until you got to a safe spot where you could get your stuff. And that it's a time killer.
It's hard.
It is very
It's
tough.
very hard.
It's very tough. I have mixed feelings about it because I do enjoy the challenge, right? Like if death is too easy, it's really hard to take a game seriously, or to you're willing to take a lot more stupid risks in a game where death is, the penalties are minor, right?
Yeah. Because then you just want to like, oh, I need to travel across the whole map. I'll just die here and then I'll pop up back on my spawn point at home.
Exactly, right? Where in this one it's like, if I die here, I'm gonna have to run all the way back. Which in some cases is not as fun as it sounds. So
you can make bedrolls.
Yes, you can make
close to the area.
bedrolls, but you're limited to
spawn
one,
there.
which is something you got to be aware of too. So if you want to have multiple spawn points, you can build beds, but you can only have one bed, one bedroll. So
Yep.
at most you can have 2 spawn points, and there's ways to make that work, mind you.
Yeah, there is, and I like the fact that you can actually climb in this game. Of course, it's stamina based,
Yes.
but you can climb, and most people you see here, you can actually turn into your
Brawls.
indentured.
And that I thought was interesting too, because like you have like the blacksmith, for example, that I just killed here. A blacksmith 3 is actually one of the better ones to have on your staff until you can find a named blacksmith. I think is the next highest level. I don't think there's a level higher than that unless you know something I don't.
No, basically the only still a tier 4, but it's the ones you can get from a purge.
Right, those are the ones you want.
Yeah.
But-
Those are like the top tier ones.
But the ones that work, that are fairly easy to get early on, those are really nice to have because they can greatly increase the amount of time it takes, or reduce the amount of time it takes to make things, which is very big for resources that you need to build buildings, for example. So having a smelter, a carpenter at a high tier is extremely useful because smelting iron and forging the different pieces you need for building supplies can take a very long time, especially if you're like me and want to build really large buildings and landscapes.
Yeah, you need to build like several, like say smelters. Usually good to have 4 and then have 4 smelters.
Yeah.
If you can find them, it would be ideal because it will take a while.
Yeah.
And smelters do help a lot with speed.
And you can see me running around here in this. I'm trying to build a hut So I am literally grabbing a buttload of stone, a buttload of wood, and it takes a while. And you see I run into like a real big bad here early on, which is not good for me. I'm booking it. But,
Yep, that one.
yeah, that's not a monster you really want to fight early on. Not where I'm at anyway.
No, that's a corrupted Kappa.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
They mean. They really mean.
They hurt. They're quick.
Yeah. I'm at half health. I have no healing, no food, no water. It's just not a good situation for me, so I'm booking it.
Yep, that's a good idea.
But they have like tons and tons to this game. There's lots of stuff to harvest. I do
places to explore.
I do feel like they could have balanced the building a little better, because I feel like the sheer amount of resources you need to build like just a little simple home like I do here is kind of insane. Like I almost needed 1,000, maybe 1,500 stone and almost as much wood, and at least a couple hundred plant fibers, and I'm like, I don't know that if I were really to build this that I would really need that much. I mean,
Ark is a little similar to that. You need a lot of resources to build stuff.
But at least you had dinos.
Similar.
At least you had dinos to help you gather like loads of resources, though, right? At least that's what I felt with Ark. Like, okay, you had tools to help you gather an insane amount of resources, where this game, you just got you. Now, technically, you can get golems later that can collect things, but I didn't find them particularly useful, because you still needed to be the one to be, you had to be in their party, right? And they would only do it as you walked around, so you're still going out and doing it. Like, I thought if they automated it where I could send the golems out to collect different things and come back, that would have been amazing.
That would have been great. Yeah, that's what I thought they were gonna do, but no.
No, that's not how it works. It's you add them as your follower, and then you just walk around. They go around collecting stuff while you fight, you know. So, they'll leave you to the bear, and then they'll go do things while you fight the bear. That's like, okay.
Yeah.
That's like totally not useful.
Yeah, pretty much. And when you explore, you find some really big, nasty things sometimes, and you go like, no thank you, I will go this other way.
That's right. That's right. And when we say big, nasty things, we mean big, nasty things.
Yeah, there are some huge enemies.
But it is an extremely fun world to explore. I think that right now they have the Isles of Septa and the Exiled Lands maps out there. I haven't played the Isles of Septa much, but I have played the Exiled Lands a lot. I think there's only one area in the Exiled Lands I haven't really explored all that well, which was the volcano area. But this game takes up so much of my time that if I literally played this, I'd never get to play anything else. I really enjoy this game.
It's a huge time sink because you can do so much, especially building, exploring, gathering materials, and there's a lot of fun stuff. There's a lot of lore in this game too.
Absolutely. Now, I would love to talk more about this game, but I've got like 4 or 5 more things I want to try to get through tonight, so we're going to move on to the next one. Another fun game that Heimdall likes a lot. Is actually one who told me about it. So this is Midnight Suns. This game was released December 2nd, 2022, developed by Firaxis Games and published by 2K. Currently out for the PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. Game is currently going for $60 for the standard edition, $80 for the digital plus edition, and then $100 for the legendary edition. I have about 120 hours in this game. Not sure how much Heimdall has.
I have a bit. Right now, Steam, currently, up to March 7th, is 75% off for this game.
Oh, nice.
So $14.99, or Legendary Edition $24.99. Yeah, I have a lot of hours in this one. I kind of like this one. I have almost 500 hours.
Yep. It's a very well-made game. So this game is about a player that plays the hero Hunter, who must stop Lilith building a team of heroes, the Midnight Suns, to thwart Lilith's plans. And, Hunter picks up a lot of well-known superheroes like Captain America, Iron Man, and, I can kind of go back here a little bit to the screen we just passed to see.
It's kind of interesting because it's not only the more known superheroes.
Yes.
Because of the Midnight Suns have a more eclectic cast. Right.
So they have X-Men, they have the Avengers, and even some other. I don't even know if they were really part of any particular groups, like Deadpool, Blade. I think you have Venom as part of a DLC. Dr. Morbius was one, and Storm was another one from the X-Men, right?
Right.
So
so some of them are a mix from X-Men, some other team with Nico. So they are more focused on the magic part of things, the Midnight Suns.
Yeah, I think the Midnight. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. The Midnight Suns group, wasn't that Nico, the new Ghost Rider? I, for the life of me, cannot remember.
Magic.
That's it. Yeah.
And Blade.
were the Midnight Suns group. That's right.
Right.
So we're just expanding their group for this game.
Right. So it's not all heroes in the Marvel universe, of course, but there are some big hitters for sure there, and it's kind of interesting because this gameplay is very tactical.
Very tactical.
Since it's the same developer that did XCOM, Enemy Unknown, and XCOM 2. So it's very tactical, but there's also based on cards, so it's a bit of a card collecting game as well.
It is definitely a card builder.
Yeah, which is their abilities, which is kind of interesting as well, because the outside of the combat is a lot of story, and everything is voiced.
Yes, there's a lot of great voice acting along in this game. So this game kind of has like two modes. Like the first mode is the kind of the mode that you saw at the very beginning, where it's like a third person walking around the academy. There's gathering of resources. There's exploring the campus grounds per se, and a lot of story elements that occur during that time where you talk to your different team members and face various challenges. I'm trying to remember. I don't think there was a lot of fighting or anything out there. It's just mostly exploring, right?
Yeah, on the grounds, it's mostly exploring.
Right.
Gathering resources, yeah.
And then you have this card-based tactical side, which we're watching now, where you are basically dealt a hand of abilities from the from your cards that you have in your hand, and then you just use these various abilities to fight the enemies. There is so much going on here. We could probably spend an entire video talking about it.
Oh yeah, there are so many layers to this.
Right.
Not only do you have cards, you have on the right side, you see how many card plates you have, redraws, you can discard a card, you have one move and 3 items. And depending on the cards you get, these things can change.
Yes. And you can see like the +1 there where I've actually got like an extra redraw because of a card I just played. And again, like each hero has like a guard and health that they get to use. They each have their own, like what was kind of neat about this game is that each superhero really brought something to the table in terms of what their abilities were and what they were really good at. Most of them kind of fell into the tank support healer role, but they could be quite versatile depending on what cards you pick though.
yeah, since they have this theme and the cards do a little bit of different things within that theme, but depending on which cards they actually put in your main deck for each person. Each person, I think, has 10 cards.
Something like that, yeah.
About 10.
And that's
10,
not
12
even.
cards.
I'm about to say that's not even including the unlockable ones that you eventually get when you level them up high enough to get their legendary cards. Do the challenges and stuff with them to unlock certain cards.
Exactly, and then you can switch out certain cards, and oh my god, can you upgrade cards? Not only can you upgrade cards,
Modify
you can
them.
also modify them. Later.
Yes. And again, we could sit here for probably a good solid hour talking about all the different things you can do to make these things. There's a lot going on for this game. I found it. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say there are certain aspects that are really interesting when it comes to playing certain cards. There are certain key aspects, like you have cards that give you hero points, and you have cards that cost hero points.
Yeah.
So that's like the big thing. So you need some generating points, and you need to have the big hitters that takes away points.
And not only that, they have environmental attacks that you can do too that are just crazy. Like you can kind of see them on this map where you've got these little canisters that'll explode, or you can pull weights down on somebody's head, jump over these little crates and do some cool hero moves on an enemy on the other side of it, or push these boxes and hit a bunch of enemies at once. I mean, the amount of attacks that you can do in a round blew my mind. What they did with this game, they did so well.
Oh yeah, it's really interesting. You see a lot of highlights. Everything is the things that shining green.
Yep.
You can interact with in some way to attack the enemy.
Positioning mattered too, because if you needed to fall a certain angle, you had to be in the right position to make it fall at that particular angle you wanted it to fall. I mean, like I said, they did such a great job with the detail in this game and what you needed to do. They even allowed for photo mode, which was kind of cool, where you can actually take pictures. If you saw something particularly cool, you can quickly switch to photo mode and take a picture of it.
Yeah, some attacks are really cinematic and cool, like that attack we see right now, which is kind of cool, and it is really interesting.
Probably one of the best strategy games that I've played in a long time. Probably since XCOM 2. I really loved XCOM and XCOM 2. This game was just a really good showing of what that developer is capable of.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's really interesting as well, because I like the way they did this. There's a lot of tactics that is needed, and of course there's a bit of RNG with the cards, which cards show up for whom. But it also depends. Also, you need a little bit of synergy as well. Helps a lot.
I also appreciated how they did difficulty classes in this game. So you were not locked into, let's say, if I started off in normal, I wasn't locked into normal the entire game. I could change the difficulty as the game progressed, because there is a point in which it becomes a little too easy, because you're upgrading your cards, your heroes are becoming more powerful. And if you just want to go through the story and don't really care about all this tactical gameplay, you can keep it on normal and blow through the entire game without much effort. But this gameplay we're seeing now is on its hardest mode, and they just have so much health. Their difficulty is basically stat bloat, so they do more damage, they take bigger hits to take down. But even with that, though, I mean, as powerful as your heroes get at a point, you need that in order for it to feel challenging, because it will, as you progress in the game, feel like the game is a little too easy.
Oh yeah, definitely. So it's good to take a few difficulties higher up. It actually helps you with getting a bit more points as well. For your resources, because you have several resources in this game too to deal with, not only money, because you can upgrade a lot of things. You can gain new armors. Of course, the cards are the abilities, so after each complete a mission, the people that you brought on the mission will gain a card, more or less.
Right. Right.
And you get to choose that when you get back from the next day. You can open up the rewards, basically. Which is really fun, and of course we can talk about a lot. There's
Yeah.
you can send them out on other missions
Yep.
as well.
There's a ton of vanity rewards in this game. The hero could choose a light or dark path, depending on how you want to play. I think in this playthrough, I'm playing a dark path. You also build relationships with the various other members of the team, and that can affect what cards they can use and your synergies with them. So that's tons of stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. You get like special cards with them, and they get better the better friendship you are with them.
Exactly.
Because there's a lot of talking there's a lot of things happening, a lot of strife between the different types of group because they work differently.
Right. And they have different values and moral issues, which is interesting to have them talk about in this game too. So again, not trying not to spoil anything, but there's a lot of good story in this game if you could take the time to put it together. Because I will admit, like, I did not care for myself anyway. I did not care for the exploring the arcane grounds all that much. To me, that was like I did it because it was a necessary evil, but for many other people, they may have really enjoyed that part of it. I was more interested in this tactical side of this game.
I will give you a tip about that. You unlock pretty early an area in the game, and there is a specific flower or herb that grows in a pot. You only need to go out on days where when the herb grows in that pot. So those are the only times they really need to go out and grab, because that's when most of the resources on the grounds have respawned, which you can get a lot more. So you don't have to run every day. Usually the nighttime is the best to go out and get items. So you should only go when that specific plant is there. That's the best tip I can give, so you're not running around the grounds, without any purpose.
Right. All right. Well, that was Midnight Suns. We're going to be moving on to a different game, Stellaris. Now, Stellaris is a sandbox game. It was released in May 9th, 2016 by Paradox Development Studios, also published by Paradox Interactive. Various platforms for this game. It's going for about $40 for the base game, $50 for the Galaxy Edition. This game has numerous add-ons going for about $10 a piece, sometimes upwards of $20 depending on if it's new or not. This is probably one of the best 4X games I have ever played. I have over 717 hours in this game.
Wow.
This game is so complex that literally there are hundreds of videos on YouTube, over hours and hours of video on how this game plays. And you got to be kind of careful because this game has changed a lot since its first release, and some of the mechanics don't work the way they used to anymore. But like you in this character, like I'm making a race right now, just a little cyborg race, just to give you an idea of what kind of gameplay is involved. So
resistance is futile.
Yeah, not quite the board, but you've got various traits that they can choose from that give them bonuses, not unlike any other 4X game, right? Some other things that can give them negatives so that they can pick up bigger bonuses, as you'll see me pick up here in this example, right? So by the time I'm done, I've gone and picked up four. Let's see here. Yeah, I picked up 3 or 4 different items, 5 different items, just to get some really cool bonuses, right? And then you get to choose, stuff like your starting home world, what your city looks like. That's all cosmetic stuff. Now, this part here is interesting. This is origin stories. So the narrative in this game changes based on the origin that you pick. So they have different, I want to say like 20 different storylines that you can choose from, depending on what you want your what you want your characters to start with. And they're all interesting, and it's a video unto themselves what they each do, but you can see the tooltips are phenomenal. They give a lot of detail and explanation of what you're expected, what you can expect to happen in your playthrough. A lot of this is not going to mean anything to a new person because there's just so many details to this game. There's a lot of little things to track. And you can see all my expansions on the right. These are all the different, they've got tons of expansions for this game. I think I'm missing one expansion. But they all bring some really interesting gameplay. So, it's some of it's cosmetics, a lot of it is game mechanics that they've added since the game released. If I have one thing to complain about this game is that it is super expensive if you bought everything when it's not on sale. Because like I said, as you can see, there's like at least 10 or 15 DLCs, and like I said, they're all like 10 to 15 bucks a piece, upwards of $20 for the newest one. When they're on sale, I think they're like $1 or $2 a piece, which is not nearly as bad. But man, this game is so good. You could spend hours in the sandbox playing. I don't even really like sandbox games much, but it does such a great job of telling a story for each of their various origins. And then I don't really get into ship combat much because the ship combat's pretty simplistic. But get to some gameplay where I'm starting to, like any other Fork game, you start to research various things. You go around, you start exploring. I chose the Ring World origin story. So we've inherited this ring world that some other precursor had built, and we're like a surviving robotic race on this remnant of a ring world. And I'm building my construction and science ships. What's kind of interesting to me is this game, even though it's almost 8 years old at this point, they are still modifying and upgrading and adding to this game. It is very popular, and I'd say a game can last probably a good 100 to 200 hours if you play it all the way through to the end. I've only actually ever finished like maybe 3 games, and that's playing with a moderate-sized galaxy. If you played a larger galaxy, it'd be even crazier. But one thing I will say is that the larger the game, the more resources your computer needs to be able to handle in order to facilitate those games, because towards the end game, things get so crazy that in terms of number of units and moving pieces, that it will bog down the game. You'll notice that this game is being played in real time. It's not a turn-based game. So in the top right corner there, right now the game is paused, so you can pause it. But normally you're running it at a normal or a faster speed and trying to play the game as you go. So it's a combination RTS 4X game style of a gameplay.
Yeah, these games are usually pretty hard.
They can be if you don't understand the economies. These games are basically resource management games. And you see across the top all the various resources, and that's not even all of them. That's just the ones you start out with. So as you start researching more and more of them start showing up. But you start with energy on the left, minerals to the. Probably easier if I point this out. Oh, or I can't, because the media player thing is going to show. But at the top, you'll see like energy in order from left to right: energy, minerals, food, commodities, metallurgy. I'll see if I can get my cursor to stop moving so that you can actually see what I'm talking about. So again, energy, minerals, food, commodities, metallurgy, influence, unity, research, and that diamond is like special resources that we haven't discovered yet. And then you have planetary empire size, and then population, and then you have envoys, which are used for diplomacy. And you got space stations that you can only build 3 in the beginning until you do more research, and then you got your fleet size. Those are the resources that you're going to manage early on. And that only scratches the surface of this game. I don't even think I show this in the video, but there's like a whole government system where you choose the policies of your empire that affect how your empire runs. You know, like you could put yourself as a, you know, a commodity-based empire where you're building a lot more commodities than you are building alloys for warships to appease your citizens. But then, you know, during times of war, maybe you want to switch to a more factory-oriented or foundry-oriented empire so you can build ships faster, right? So you can change those policies to give you advantages during times of peace and times of war. You can choose whether slavery is legal or not. You can choose whether or not you want your wars to be restricted or unrestricted. You can have bombardment where it only bombards military installations or it bombards indiscriminately, killing off civilian populations. I mean, there are tons of little details.
Wow.
Eventually, you can research like racial modifications or robotic modifications and actually change aspects of your race. And you can modify your race in time.
Interesting.
You eventually get like planet killers where you can destroy actual planets, various levels of ships that you can build, and they can actually have different roles in a fleet. So, for example, you can have corvettes that are set for picket ships to protect the larger ships, like the battleships and such, from incoming enemy missiles and such. Formations can matter. Like I said, there's just tons of this game, and I could spend hours talking about it.
Right.
Much like Midnight Suns, there's just so many little details in this game that it gets a little crazy. Now we're going to talk about a game that's very similar to this briefly, and this is Star Trek Infinite. Star Trek Infinite came out October 12th, 2023, developed by the Nimble Giant Entertainment, but released by Paradox Interactive. Now, you'll notice a lot of similarities between this and Stellaris because it was based off the same platform. Really, the only difference between this game and Stellaris is that this has the Star Trek canon, where you get to choose between playing the Klingon, Romulans, Cardassian, or Federation empires. Right. And you'll see here a little later. Let's see if I can pull it up here. You know, the galaxy is. Let's see if I can get a picture of it here. I'm sure I zoom out at some point to see the whole galaxy. You can kind of see it here. So this game, you know, it has pre-designed like where the different empires are. This game starts the same for every game. So it's really just one scenario. The stories from, I don't know if you're a fan of Star Trek, but like most of this comes from all of the Star Trek canon from the Next Generation, Voyager, and on. I would say mostly Next Generation with some Voyager aspects, right? I don't want to ruin too much in the game, so there is an overarching storyline for each empire. I've only really played through the Federation one all the way to completion. The rest of them I've only kind of dabbled in. But they bring aspects of like the Bajoran occupation by Cardassia and the Federation kind of coming in and helping them. It deals a little bit with the homeworld being getting ready to die for the Romulans, and the Romulans now have to figure out what to do with their homeworld gone. And then the Klingons' expansion into space. I mean, there's a lot going on here. From a lore standpoint, which I'm not going to ruin for various reasons, but as you can see, just as many resources that they've got to manage, same 4X strategy type. You've got to do research, you've got to collect resources and build armies, and you know, diplomacy is a big deal in this particular game. It was in Stellaris too, but not nearly to the same extent. Well, at least for my Federation playthrough. I'm not sure if that would technically be true for the other ones since I haven't played through them. But I still feel like it's kind of necessary, because without it, what makes these games typically hard is that you end up ticking off a lot of people, and you typically don't build enough defense to survive being attacked by everybody, basically.
Makes sense.
So diplomacy becomes important from the standpoint of you need allies. You need enough allies to make other nations think twice about fighting you. Right. Right. So that's where this sits. I'm not going to go into this game because, again, it's very, very similar, if not identical, to Stellaris, just with a Star Trek theme. So very, very cool game, but also very very similar. So there's not much more to talk about here. We'll start ahead and go into Gloomhaven now. This came out October 20th, 2021. This was developed by Flaming Fowl Studios and published by, as I hope I'm spelling this right, Asmodee Digital. Came out for various platforms. It's currently going for about $35. I have about 200 hours in this game. Basically, you play as a band of mercenaries for the city of Gloomhaven. You start off with taking on odd jobs and eventually get sucked into a storyline centered around Gloomhaven once your characters are developed a little bit. You start with 6 different classes: the Brute, the Mind, the Mind Thief, the Spellweaver, Scoundrel, the Tinkerer, which is kind of like a healer / support class, and the Cragheart. And what's kind of interesting is that each of these classes have their own little flavor and kind of associated element, really. There's a lot going on. This is another kind of deck building game, similar but not quite the same as Midnight Suns. You have a set deck that you start with that you can choose your cards with. You unlock cards by leveling up. There's not much more to it than that, but each of these cards have like 2 sides, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. Let me fast forward to like a combat where you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. So when you start looking at the different cards, like here on the left, like Provoking War, Selfish Retribution, what have you. Let's see if I can bring up one. So here's where we look at one of the cards, right? You have 2 different sides. You have a attack, what is typically an attack action, which is on the top side of the card, and what is typically a move or support action on the bottom side of the card. And then you also have like an initiative here in the center, which says when you're going to go in the turn. So the lower the initiative, the faster you're going to go. And you'll notice that each of these cards on the left have different initiative numbers. So if I take an 86, for example, I'm going to go towards the end of the round, where if I pick a 10, I'm probably going to go first. The first card you pick is what determines your initiative. Now you can play with that a little bit by deselecting and reselecting cards when you're selecting your cards in this game. But typically you'll perform 2 actions, a top action and a bottom action. But as far as the game goes, there's a lot of little mechanics that go along with it. You'll notice here on the left, you've got various items that you can use. Now this character I'm playing is pretty far advanced, so normally you wouldn't start with anything. You might buy like a helmet or a piece of armor or something, and then as you build them up, you'll get more stuff. This is a level 9 Brute, so he's already capped at level 9, and he's got all of his equipment already unlocked. But these items can help you out by giving you certain bonuses and defenses or attack bonuses as you go through, and then several potions that can keep you alive or hopefully replenish your health. So health is interesting in this game. You start off with like a certain health bar, so you might notice that it's kind of hard to see in this picture. Let's see if I can get a good. So you'll see like the Brute here has 26 health. Well, these cards also are part of your health in a way, because this is kind of like your stamina. So as long as you have at least 2 actions that you can select in a round, you're able to stand. You don't become exhausted per se. But these also kind of act as health as well, because when your health bar runs out, if you get hit, you can sacrifice cards to prolong your death or prolong your exhaustion. So there's a lot going on in that regard. There's a lot of mechanics at play for each of these cards, just like there was in Midnight Suns, where you've got various, see if I can find a card that's got like an example here. You got various abilities that may go on, like this little symbol here is a frost symbol. So when you cast this spell, you enhance what's called the frost element. And here on the right, you'll see that the dark element's already enhanced. When she uses this, it'll begin to enhance. When her turn ends, that frost element will become available for anybody else to use. And certain cards can use that frost element to enhance their abilities. For example, this mana bolt, if you use any mana, you can add +1 to your attack and gain 1 experience. So what these cards say and how they act matter, and there's too many different combinations and things that can happen that I'm not going to get into or talk about here. But there's quite a bit to this game in terms of positioning matters, how your group moves around and works as a team matters. You'll see traps on the board that you'll have to watch out for, and you can pull enemies. So sometimes you can use traps to your advantage, and sometimes the enemies will use them to theirs. And one of the interesting things about this game to me was that the mercenary group can be just about any composition and do fairly well in most missions as long as the characters are built and are played well. If you just go in with a generic build, you'll do okay, but this game really shines when you start tinkering with your team and building them to work together as a cohesive team, which gets challenging because this game is multiplayer. You can play with up to 4 other players, and this game, when you play multiplayer, will not tell you what the other players are doing. So if you don't communicate what you're doing, and I think in the board game, because this game is based off a board game, a similar name, I think the rules actually state that you're not supposed to tell anybody. But I mean, if you're working as a team, sometimes this game's a lot easier and more fun, in my opinion, if you coordinate as a team and work together as a team to overcome these challenges, because these challenges are no joke.
Yeah, if it's cooperative play, you kind of want that dialogue in order to see what you can do together.
Absolutely. You could play it where you're competing within the mercenaries within the group, and there's nothing wrong with that type of gameplay. It's just not how I prefer to play it. This is a lot more fun to me when I'm playing as a group and I'm kind of coordinating my attacks with my team, because there are times where your attacks can screw another member's plan if you don't talk, and it's happened time and time again for me, and it's often what causes mission failures in my games. So I don't know, take that for what it's worth.
Right.
Gloomhaven itself, there's what's kind of interesting about this game is that the board changes depending on what missions you take, and there are choices that you make along the way that changes the way the game progresses story-wise. So there's a lot of replayability in this game. As of this making of this video, there are 2 DLCs for it: the Jaws of the Lion and the solo missions. Jaws of the Lion added, I think, 4 new classes that you could play. Oh, I forgot to talk about this. In the main game, you start with those 6 classes, but as you progress, there are missions that you do to unlock more classes. That's where these 2 classes came from, and I honestly forget the name of them. I think it's like the Sun Knight and the I forget what this one's called. It's like a Shadow Assassin. But these unlock as you fulfill mercenary goals. So when you make your mercenary, you're going to select a goal to unlock another class, and as you progress through the game and you eventually get to that goal, your mercenary retires and then a new class unlocks, so you can replace them with that new class or do just a different class in general. It's your call, because it just unlocks it so that you can make them, doesn't necessarily replace them right away. That being said, the graphics in this game and the animations were phenomenal. Like, each class felt special in their own right. Like, they all had their own niches. They did a pretty good job explaining what things do. There's an actual tutorial and manual on here, so if you're not really clear like what certain symbols mean, or what what bless does, for example, you can actually go into the manual at any time and look at it. It's pretty well documented, and the gameplay is really I feel it's pretty balanced, because I win about as much as I lose. It is frustrating though, depending on the way your game is set up, because missing in this game is devastating, and you will miss a lot. So See there, I use a trap for my advantage and it darn near kills this guy. Takes 6 damage. Anywho, yeah, and so this is Gloomhaven. This very good game. Highly recommend it. I mean, like I said, it's a fairly cheap game at $35, but I've got over 200 hours in it, and I'll be playing a lot more of this as time goes on.
Indeed, it looks very interesting and probably a game I will eventually pick up.
Yeah, can't recommend it enough. All right, and we're gonna come to last but not least of my gameplay list, Phasmophobia. This game is a horror game in which you play a ghost hunter trying to discover what haunts a given location. The story is pretty non-existent in this game. It's more just about having fun with your friends, trying to hunt the ghosts. You're given a small set of equipment that you can use, and you can that's awesome. Thanks for hanging out with us, though. I really appreciate it, Shode. You get some good sleep.
Sleep good, Shode.
Yeah, ping doesn't work at the moment. I disabled it for this talk show. Sorry about that. Yeah, no. But I appreciate you stopping by and watching, really do. You get some good rest. Anyway, getting back to this, this game, has various tools that you use for the ghost hunting. We'll go ahead and skip ahead to the ghost hunting bit. So you get your little truck here where you can learn about, what's going on with the ghost. I'm going through my options here for whatever reasons. Let's skip ahead and past this part. So here are my various tools for ghost hunting. So this is a ECM. It's the electromagnetic reader for EMF. That's what I'm looking for. That's the acronym I'm looking for. EMF, not ECM. I'm thinking of something else. Anyway, so we'll go in here, try to find this ghost. If I can actually open the back of this truck, no promises.
So you're basically a Ghostbuster.
Yeah. Sleep is for the weak. You're right, Jack. I agree with you fully. Yeah, so I'm basically, kind of a Ghostbuster. I don't get those really cool proton packs that you see in the movies, But, yeah. But I like the detail in this game. Like, the ambiance or the atmosphere is pretty spooky when you first start, You need, like a key to get in to certain doors. You come in, it's all dark, and you're kind of looking around. Now, I don't think you can hear me in this because I had my mic muted when I was recording this. But in this game, you actually use your mic to talk to the ghosts, to get them to act. So you're calling out to them as you're walking around, trying to get them to show themselves. And sometimes they're pretty vocal, sometimes they're not. I'm tried to turn on some lights, couldn't do it, so that there's actually like a fuse box in the house, so you got to go find the fuse box to turn on the lights so you can see without a flashlight, which is kind of a neat little detail I liked about this game. This game on its surface doesn't look all that spooky, but man, it can get pretty creepy, especially as your sanity starts to drop. And now this is like the very first map, but like some of the locals they have are the locales they have are very creepy. You have a good one, Show. Thanks again. They could do some, the ghosts do some pretty cool things. I will say that this game to me was not nearly as scary as some other games similar to it out on the market right now. I recently played Demonologist with GG Grotesque, and that game, in my opinion, was way more scary than this game was. While this game it does have its moments, like the other one had some really cool pre-scripted events that, I wasn't expecting it to be that good.
Interesting.
Pios? What is a Pios? I'm not even sure I'm pronouncing that right. That umlaut over the O's.
Yeah, it's more like a
Pews.
Yeah.
Pews.
Yeah, poos.
Pews.
Pews. Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. But yeah, I really enjoy playing this game with friends. Playing this by myself, I really didn't enjoy all that much. So like in this game, it's almost as unforgiving as Demonologist is. So if you spend money on equipment and you die while you are out doing the ghost hunting, you lose all that equipment and all the money you spent on it. So this equipment, I mean, the equipment in this game is really cheap compared to Demonologist. Demonologist equipment is expensive. So dying in Demonologist is not ideal. In this game, equipment's fairly cheap, so it's not as punishing in my mind. But it does play into it some, because getting money in this game it's kind of rough. You get money through determining what type of ghost haunts the area correctly, and then also fulfilling some side objectives that are shown in the truck. We might see some of that a little bit later. Like right now, I'm trying to go around trying to find the ghosts. I'm using a thermometer to find find out how cold it is. Now, this game has changed a lot since I last played it, because this thermometer used to be a digital thermometer, so it was a lot easier to read. Now it's kind of gone to an older model, and I actually
Quicksilver.
Yeah, Quicksilver model.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they have a digital thermometer in the I could purchase it in the equipment, because I didn't really look into the equipment that deeply. But like even my camera changed quite a bit, because I used to be able to place the camera in certain places to use it as like a extra video cam, where I didn't have to be in the room, but I can see if the ghost does anything when I'm not there, that type of stuff. But I couldn't do that now, so I'm guessing I either have to get a specific type of camera, or I may have to get a camera stand or something to make that work. I don't really know.
Right.
But you can see the first phase of the game is just basically running around, just looking to see if you can identify where the ghost is in the house, because it's got a favorite haunting spot, right? And then once you discover it, and we'll kind of fast forward a little bit, you'll start to see, I think this is about the time I start to discover where it's at. Yeah, so I discover it's in this room, and I'm trying to use the spirit box to get it to talk, but it's not really doing anything. You can kind of see the cold temps from the breath kind of freezing up occasionally. See, like right there, you get a little puff of cold air. So,
Yep, and you got so angry you threw your equipment.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm like, nope. There's more. I just noped the fuck out. It's like, nope, not sticking around there. I discovered there's freezing temperature, so that's a clue as to what type of, what kind of ghost it is. So I tried going there to see if I can get exactly what, I was curious what a freezing temp looked like on this thermometer, so I went and I grabbed that. But again, I felt like it was kind of hard to see, so you couldn't really tell how cold it was per se. I mean, you could kind of see it drop there, right? But is that considered freezing temp? I mean, I wasn't entirely sure.
I mean, it takes a while for the Quicksilver to actually
to work, right? Yeah, it's not instant.
Yeah.
So that took some time. So then I try using the diary or the spirit writing to see if I can get that spirit to write something in the book. And basically what you do is you just drop it on the ground and you talk to the spirit and try to get them to write something. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. And then I think I go back here to grab my UV light to see if I can find any UV... oh no, I do the dots detector. Okay. Now this used to be a very different thing too, where I could put this in the middle of the room and you can kind of see ghostly figures moving through the dots. That's basically how this worked. And that's kind of hard to see in this. I always feel like the dots are kind of hard to see. I'm not sure this is implemented very well in this game. And then I try setting it down and I have all sorts of trouble getting that to really work. So I'm going to skip all that. So I tried a couple things there with the dots. That didn't really work. So now we're moving on to... Oh, this is where I tried the camera? Yeah, I tried the camera. And so with the camera, you can kind of see ghost orbs if you're looking at night vision, which is another clue as to what type of ghost it is. But it's kind of hard to see, right? You got this like little tiny camera that you're looking through, and so you're trying to find this tiny orb in this little camera. And if there's lights, of course, it makes it harder to see. So you can't. And I'm trying to place it on top of this computer, and it just doesn't work. But you're looking for like little specks floating around and not seeing anything. Let's see. I'm gonna skip ahead to when I start using. That was me trying to use the camera to see if I can switch to it, but I can't. Now I bring my UV, my little UV light, see if I can find any anything with that. And it looks like the ghost got a little excited at the door over here. Other than that, not much to it. So at this point, you know, I think I've got what ghost it is, because I've identified EMF 5, or no, I'm sorry, I identified the ultraviolet, I identified the freezing temps. See, ultraviolet used to be called fingerprints, so it took me a little while to find out what they changed it to. And now this is probably where I take my EMF reader and see if I can get an EMF 5 reading for the ghost.
Interesting.
So at this point, I'm like, okay, I got EMF 5, so obviously that's a thing. So I go to EMF level 5. I think I've got the ghost at this point, so I'm like, okay, maybe I'll try to do like a side mission or something. So I go look at these different little side missions. It looks like I'd already, gotten the first one by getting an EMF reader. I had to witness an event, and then I also had to get my sanity below 25%. Now, sanity is what determines when the ghost will actually start haunting you lethally or not. So you can't really see it, but my sanity is like 85% at this time, because that's on that truck. That's how you determine what your sanity level is. So my sanity is not low enough to be haunted just yet, but it's getting there, because around 50% it can start to haunt you. And when it haunts you, you got to either hide in the house and hope it doesn't find you, or you got to get out of the house entirely before it starts to haunt, which is almost always impossible. I don't think I've successfully survived many haunts in a solo game. Usually if I survive a haunt in a solo game, it was by cheating, which I'm not even sure is available anymore.
Cheating.
Yeah, used to, you would flip through the dressers. So you'll notice, like, as you're running through this front, let me see if I can find a good example of this, because as you run through the front, you'll see that let's see, find a good, I had to have passed it. So we'll get here. Okay, you can kind of see it here. So you see how these drawers are pulled out of this little mirror, or this little desk here? You used to be able to clip into those drawers, and those drawers would actually protect you from the ghost if it came after you. So you would hide inside those drawers because you were clipped into this desk, basically, and the ghost would like try to haunt you around the desk but couldn't actually get to you physically. So that was a way to survive a solo mission before. I think they patched it since, so I don't think you can do that anymore. But that was a way you would survive solo hunting.
Right.
Because hiding was maybe about 10% effective, because most of the time you were the one in the room with it whenever it started haunting you. So you almost had no time to get away.
Great.
Oftentimes, if you were lucky, it would try to haunt as you were about to leave the house, so you might get out in time. Or if not, you would have enough time to like go into a closet or something and hope to God it wouldn't open the door. I mean, it was... I don't have a good example of a haunt in this particular video, but I will give it that the art was really good. I like that they're still improving the game, and I like the fact that the ambiance is really spooky and scary. It's more scary with the lights off than the lights on. I turned the lights on so I can see, because it's really hard to see things in the dark in this game. Right. But they did good, and this really has a lot of like little these houses or these locations have some side things you can do. Like you can summon the ghost. They got like a summoning circle. They got Ouija boards. and other little mini events that you can participate in that can lead to some really fun times with your friends. You can play with up to 3 other people, I believe. Like I said, this game was pretty fun, and for a fairly cheap game, it was worth it. Definitely worth it. So this was the last game that I actually had to review for tonight, guys. I really appreciate every one of you, and Heimdall especially coming to talk through these games with me, especially the ones that you've had a lot of time in. You added a great deal to the show, so really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And for all those that stayed and watched through the whole thing, I really appreciate it. I hope it was entertaining and at least somewhat informational for you all. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. I am going to go ahead and call it a night, and we are going to raid out. Let's see if we have anybody doing anything interesting.
Yeah, definitely worth a clap. Thank you for the game show and review show. That was fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed doing this. It took a lot of time to put it together, surprisingly, but I really wish I'd kept a lot of my videos when I played, because I kind of deleted a bunch of them because I was running out of space. And then I'm kind of like, oh man, I should have kept it for this video. I didn't even think about it. Oh well. Let's see here.
That's what the 2024 review.
That's right. For 2024 review, I'll make sure to keep some videos aside so we're not making this all at the last minute again. It literally took me like a day and a half to 2 days to come up with all the videos for this stuff. It took a little bit of time to set up.
Oh, I believe it.
I think we're going to go ahead and raid GG Grotesque. He is currently playing Last Year. He is a horror streamer. Definitely give him a look. This is only for those on Twitch. For those on Kick, I again appreciate you hanging out with us, but this is where the stream's going to end, and on YouTube as well. So if you are on Twitch, you'll be sent to GG Grotesque. Give him a quick shout out here. And I will also give a quick shout out to Heimdall for make sure I spell his name right, because I always seem to misplace that H for whatever reason. It helps if I actually hit shout out first.
Help.
But definitely go check out Heimdall. He does a lot of mostly strategy and survival games, but he's got quite a variety on there. We are currently playing through Monster Hunter World with Frosty Woman, so definitely go check her out too. I know Frosty is pretty consistent with her XCOM 2 on Sundays, so definitely check her out. And then I know Just Jack also streams occasionally. He hasn't streamed as much lately, but he usually streams Fortnite and other retro games, so definitely go check him out. Thanks again, everybody. We are going to go raid GG Grotesque.
Take care, everybody.
What did it not take? Oh, it helps if I use the right command.
Yes, the slash.
Slash, exclamation point. It's all the same, right?
Yeah, just a little tilted.
Just a little tilted. All right, everybody. Thank you, and have a great rest of your evening.
Bye-bye.